Well, welcome everyone. Thank you very much. And I love the diversity that's in the room too, so it's really neat. And like I said, I want to keep this very conversational. So if there's elements you want to expand on, please stop. I'm going to, like I said, I'll talk a little bit about branding, and then we'll get into most of what the people find the fun stuff is on the digital side, right? Should I have a TikTok channel? So we're gonna talk about all that stuff. So before we jump in, I'll do an introduction of who I am. And again, I know it's hard to read there, but I started my own ad agency back in 2006. So when I graduated university at TRU, so I was born and raised in Kamloops. I went off and started a pub with 4 friends, so called Bailey's Pub in Kamloops, and we completely failed. So 2 years, probably left about $50,000 in debt because we graduated and we knew everything. We were going to go do this. So why wouldn't you, right? So, but lot of lessons learned, obviously. Went off and went for a trip to New York and fell in love with Wall Street. And I'm like, I'm going to go into financial. Hated it. I'm like, I can't work for a bank. That's crazy. So, because my background was marketing. So then I jumped into marketing, and I've marketed more client side. So I worked for technology companies and I worked for BC Lotteries on the client side, and I'm like, I really like this. I like this area, and there was at the time there was an agency called Reagan Advertising. Robin, do you know the name Ralph Reagan? Yes. Back in the days, yeah. So I literally hounded him for about a year to give me a job. Finally gave me a job and fell in love with the ad agency world. So just loved it. Went off and started my own. Ran it for about 14 years, ran my own agency. As Pulse Group out of Kamloops, we had an office in Kelowna, and then we merged with Czek Creative, which Robin had mentioned. So Czek Creative was out of Kelowna, focused mostly on web development. That was sort of their forte. I love sort of the branding and marketing. Like I like, build a website. To me, that's just the start. How do we drive people to the website? How do we get people through your door? Like that's where I get excited. And then sort of we merged with Czech Creative, and now it's been almost 5 years. So we have offices in Kamloops, we have an office in Kelowna, we have our own print studio in Kelowna as well. So we do our own house printing. Well, I guess that's off. And then we just recently opened an office in Victoria. I was there last week, which we're excited about, which is super cool. And I'm through this area at least once a week, if not more. We actually bought the print studio out of Salmon Arm way back when, and then we just wanted bigger space, so we kind of moved it closer to home. And it used to be called Urban Think Tank. For people that have been in this market for a while, you might know the name. So we bought that and ran it here for a couple of years as well. So that this is actually this whole region, this area is our bread and butter, like Kamloops to Soyuz. That's what we built the company. Robin said we work with a local pub in Kamloops that spends a few $100s a month, to the other extreme, TELUS is a client of ours. So we like the diversity, and that's the beauty of why I love what we do, because we can kind of work, and it doesn't matter that one thing I seldom ask is budget. I actually don't care. I really don't. It's about relationships and about delivering for the client. I don't care if you got $1 million or if you got $100, because the $100 is really important to the business can only afford $100, right? It's really important, almost more important than the money that TELUS spends, because it's not their money, right? That's an interesting way to look at it, but that's what's important to us. And for me, what I love about what I do is I love learning about businesses. Like all I could do is just go meet business owners and talk about the why you do it. Like I love to learn, why are you in the pub business? Why did you start a food truck? Like I love that journey of getting to where you get to. And I started my own podcast. I do every Tuesday, 10 a.m. religiously, and I talk to business owners. So if anyone's interested, connect with me after. It doesn't cost. I just like to connect with people. It's called Business Matters. It's half hour. It's all done through Zoom. We do it as a podcast, and then we push it out through our platforms as well, which I'll get to. So anyone's open. I love to kind of just talk about your journey, why you do what you do. Okay, so that's my passion. That's what I love, what I do. And the biggest thing for me is, it's hard to read in here, is strategy before tactics. Like if someone comes to me and says, I like to do Facebook, my first question is why? Why do you need Facebook, right? Maybe you don't. So let's put the strategy together first. Let's find out what the goals are, where we want to get to, and then we'll talk about the easy part is picking the mediums. I know it's sometimes daunting, but if we do the first steps first, then the other ones are easy, okay? So that's kind of and one thing that most people don't know about me, but now as I do these talks, I let everybody know, is my first job, I was a Slurpee mascot. So that's not me, but I look like that. So it was my very first job. I was 7-Eleven, North Shore of Kamloops, and it was funny because years later we did a lot of work. When I first started in the agency world, I did a lot of tourism, so I worked with Tourism Sun Peaks and Big White and Silver Star and Golf Kamloops and stuff, and we were in Vancouver for an event for Sun Peaks. They had trucked in snow downtown Vancouver just to have some fun. Well, the bear mascot, the person didn't show up. Guess who jumped in the bear mascot? Rob. So maybe it's in my blood to be a mascot, but it was, I say it's my first dip in the toe of marketing.
We'll have to remember that if we need.
Yeah, you need to. It's so hot in there. In the middle of summer in a mascot, you're like dying. It's so hot. Good for weight loss, I guess.
Fun, Rob.
Sorry?
Raise your hand if you've been a mascot.
Oh my gosh, that's what?
Yeah.
That's what?
I knew that.
That's crazy. Wait, what mascot were you? I was curious who you.
Church Beulah Bear.
Oh, okay.
A big old bear. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And never worked.
No.
I was a kangaroo.
A kangaroo? You said you're a man.
Yeah, I was a mascot for the summer games in Red.
Oh, okay.
And I was the Easter Bunny in front of my kids' assembly.
Oh my God.
And then it was so hot. I was trying to hop around. And I got so hot that all of a sudden I started to feel faint. And I had to stop because I thought the Easter Bunny's going to keel over and kill other children, right? So,
That's hilarious.
good times.
That's funny. So why are we here today? And for me, this is like, I found this quote years ago and I just love it. And sometimes I read it out and people are like, I don't really like it. But I'm like, I just get to the context of doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but no one else does. And it's so true. Like you can have the best product, the best business, the best food, the best what. If you don't tell anyone about it, they're not going to know. And one thing that came out of I used to love going to conferences before pandemic happened. Now we're love kind of getting back at this, is that I was at an event where the VP of marketing, I can't remember what division for McDonald's was speaking, and one of the things he said is that if they stopped advertising in the US, Canada's a little bit different, but in the US it's so competitive that they could be out of business in 6 months to a year. Now, maybe he was being a little facetious, I get that, but just think about how aggressive, like McDonald's, everyone knows McDonald's, Tim Hortons, they advertise. If I drive, I see billboards for Tim Hortons all the time. Did they have to advertise? Well, they do, because if not, people will think, well, I'm just gonna drive through this, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go. So think about, like, you always have to market, you always have to be out there. It's not about the dollars. Some businesses have a lot more they can spend, but there's a lot of things you can do yourself that don't cost a lot of money. Right, and that's what I want to hope that I get out of today. Because one thing, my pet peeve of the conferences is always going, and you always have Starbucks talking and Lululemon talking and McDonald's. I'm like, well, that's great. None of the clients we work have those type of budgets, right? So how do I work with someone that's starting a business and is, on shoestrings and invested all their money they have in it, right? That's our market. Not the Taluses or the Coors Lights or the Tim Hortons of the world.
Well, and it's really interesting as I'm working with businesses is that marketing is always an issue, but they don't always put money aside to market. And it's one of the things that, when I say to them, even if you've got a little bit, you need to be pushing that out so that people know about your business.
Yeah, my goal is to get people to think as marketing as investment, not a cost.
Yeah.
And a lot of time it's a cost to them, right? And if it's a cost, I argue that you're not doing it right. Like we need to change, because it should be an investment. It should have a return on it. And if it's not, then we need to look at something else. Maybe it's the wrong tactic, maybe it's the wrong messaging, maybe it's the wrong whatever it may be. Or the last thing is, maybe it's not the right product. It's okay. Like, I think you need to find that out as well, right? Because we've done that. We've gone down paths where it's like, we're going to do this because the market wants it. And like, yeah, the market doesn't care about it, right? So you need to be able to know that early, right? So we're going to do a quick icebreaker, but I should mention as well, because I know Rob mentioned Czek Creative, you saw Now Media. So Now Media is our sort of corporate brand. Underneath Now Media, we actually have 6 different divisions. So Czek Creative is one of the divisions, which is the ad agency part. And that's where we do a lot of work on web development strategy and so forth. We also have a company called IVA, which is our videography and photography, mostly regionally, like in the Kelowna area. Like, we actually partner with people in other markets. Like, I'm glad I'm going to meet Mike today, because we do. though. We like to partner. We like to be local, right? So it makes sense not driving a team up from Kelowna to Kamloops. So we just have people we work with in these areas, and it just makes sense for the client as well. We have our own print studio called D6. So we do everything, anything that we can print. You can even print on top of these tables. We have a flatbed printer you can run stuff through. So vehicle wraps, decaling, business cards, anything to do with printing in some promotional items, we do that all in-house. Yep.
What about books?
Yeah, we do books. So depending on if you want perfect bound books, then we don't do those because that's a special press that you would need to do that. But outside of that, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, and the nice thing is the way we built the print studio too, short run. We have clients, like I don't like printing 10,000 brochures and have them sit in a corner. What's the point? You can use your money elsewhere. You need 500 for an event, print 500. And if you need another 100 the next day, just tell us, we'll have it to you. Like with digital printing, I'd rather do that. So that's why we invested in the print studio so we can control the process. Yeah. We should do a better job marketing. Maybe I should sit on that side. We also own an event division called Level Up. We ran a big event in Kelowna right before the pandemic, and we had, it was an all-day event. It was one of the biggest events for marketing in Kelowna ever. It was more of a leadership event at the time. We had John Kretchen, we had Stephen Harper, we had the head of marketing for Beats by Dre come in, some really cool things that we did. We had another one booked with Gary Vaynerchuk, if you guys know the name. The pandemic hit. So now we're back at it, we're going to do that again. We like to run about 4 events a year, and what we want to do is actually stream them so people that can't attend can see them as well. So we want to start moving in that direction. We own a media division, which is our Now Cities division. When I said we went into Victoria, it's because we own Kelowna Now, which is an online media. We own Kamloops Now, Vernon Now, Penticton Now, Shuswap Now, incubating Victoria Now. You get the idea. So we're launching. We've been running Kelowna Now for years. So we're moving into other areas as well. So we're excited about to move that. So did I miss one division? Did I say them all? I think I got them all. Hopefully I got them all. So anyways, little icebreaker. I just wanted to give you guys so you guys know sort of where I'm coming from and where we play within the space we play within. So a little bit of an icebreaker. And you guys can kind of just throw out some ideas. I'm hoping that, you came here for a reason, obviously. So what do you want to get out of today's session? And it's important to me. I ask this question all the time, even to clients. Like we're just working with Robin on a strategy, another strategy. One of the first things I ask is, what's the goal? How are you going to hold us accountable? And I want to be held accountable. I want to know what the goal is, because if not, it's like, I just want more business. Well, that's a little too fluffy, right? Like, so we want to be able to but just generally, just throw it out there. Like, what do you hope to get out of today? If you walk out of 3 hours together, we're here until noon. Yeah, 3. That's a long time to spend with me. So say, sorry, 12:30?
12:30 is lunch, so
okay.
We can go to 12.
Okay, so we're going to spend a few hours together. What do you hope to walk away with? Anybody? Yeah.
We just started, I went out, I bought 5 boats. We got surf boats, wakeboard boats, pontoon boats, fishing boats. And last year, due to a 100% lack of marketing, we rented almost none. Yet our competition in Salmon Arm, you couldn't get a boat for like 6 months out, right? It was just completely packed. So there's definitely a huge lack there in just getting the word out in a proper way and doing that.
Just knowing where to?
Yeah, and this area is much different, like me coming from Medicine Hat and coming from Alberta. It's a lot more of a younger crowd. Facebook is huge, Twitter's huge, that kind of stuff. Here, we have people walk in all the time. I've been in business 6 months and we thought we were doing really good, but there's still people over 60 who walk in and, wow, I didn't know you were here. Oh, you're new to the area? No, I lived here 65 years, right? And just kind of finding out what this area needs to get marketing out.
Interesting. Kate?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Direction.
Okay, good.
Yeah, with Mark, I get excited about things. I love hearing.
Yeah.
And I love
Then what? Yeah.
And I just have all the ideas, but I'm definitely not one to market myself. I love working as a team and as a group. So hearing about, how could we spread the word, about that, and so working together and how, having a plan, I guess, to follow.
Yeah, so I use the analogy of, I don't know if I haven't built a house, but I would assume if anyone's built a house, you wouldn't just grab some, a hammer, some nails and some wood and go build your house. You would put a plan together, right? Marketing should be the same. There should be a plan on paper. And hopefully, after today, you'll have some direction, at least what to do on how to put that. Because I'm a big believer in that as well, 100%. Because if not, if you're ad hoc, you typically end up spending more, and then you typically don't market to the right group because you're just doing, someone knocked on, yeah, I'll just do this, and $500 here and $200 here, and you're like, wow, I spent $2,000 this month. What did I do? Right? We see a lot of this. That's good. I like it. Anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah. I think pretty well nailed it. From my perspective with this before tactics, like I'm in the same boat as everybody else. We are doers within what we do.
Right.
I'm not a marketer.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of getting the impression that's common. Like we're really so head over heels in what we're doing that this other thing kind of falls by the wayside, and yet that is what we need to grow the business or let people know that there is a service that we're providing that you might like.
You know, and it's interesting because don't feel bad, because Robin just found out that we had a print studio. How long we've been working together. Like we're bad at it as well. Like, so this isn't a gotcha exercise at all either, right? Because we're bad at it, and that's what we do for a living. So it's pretty common because it's busy. You're busy. Things are happening. You're trying to run your business. You're trying to like make sure your truck's stocked with food. You're trying to like you're like, oh yeah, I should have posted something on Facebook today. Like it's so easy for the day to get away from you, right? But there are tools that can help you with that. You can preset things, and we'll talk about that as we go as well. I should add too, I think is there coffee and water for people too? I should have said that. So all there. Yeah. So, and feel free like to get up at any time, watch, like don't worry about even if you need to stretch or whatever, like I said, please feel free.
I'm not a great host.
I'd like to play this. There's a couple of things I'm going to talk about today that we do exercises with our clients. One exercise we do with our client is, if your brand wasn't a vehicle, which vehicle would it be and why? And we do another one that we'll talk about as well later that I'll share with you guys that you can take back with you and do as a little bit of exercise yourself. But just give some thought to that. And the reason I ask this question is it's always good to kind of think about where do we want to be as a brand? And I'm never been one to look at competitors. Ever. Like I know you mentioned sort of your competitor. The reason I look at competitors is so I can see opportunities. That's all I care. I don't care what they do, because if I'm doing what I do best, that's all I can control. So my job is to just make sure and see, hey, is there an opportunity? Maybe they're going after a market that maybe they're not going after a market that we can, right? So we can talk to somebody differently. So when you think about when I ask this question, and it could be anything. Like sometimes I even say, if your brand was an actor or an actress, who would it be? Not Will Smith. So you can kind of you can pick a few things that you think, and I don't need you to throw this out. I'm asking this question for you to start thinking. And one of the things that I ask as well is in a sense of like, don't apologize for who you want to be. And why I say that is I use Starbucks a lot. So Starbucks and Tim Hortons. So Starbucks won't stop any of us to walking into a Starbucks store, right? But you better be prepared to pay $5 for a coffee. Right? But so they're not going to stop us from going, and they're not going to apologize. Don't pay it, Rob. Go somewhere else. Like, right? Or Tim Hortons, you're going to wait in line. I don't know. There's a lineup that's like 20 cars deep all the time. Wait in line or don't. I don't care. Like, so, and I'm being facetious, but brands brands that are very successful don't apologize for who they are. They know who they are. Mercedes is another example. I don't care. Anyone can go buy a Mercedes, but you got to be prepared to spend the money to buy one, right? And if you don't, then you can go somewhere else. So, and it's okay to be that brand. You don't have to be everything to everybody. And that's a hard thing for people to realize, but you don't have to be that. So again, I don't need to answer, just wanted to get you thinking. What's one brand you admire and why? Right? Is there anything that comes to mind? Think about in your personal life. Is there something that you guys always shop at, or always just something, or even just look up to? Like for me is Apple. Like Apple's been an important part of like my life for real. Like even learning in school how they marketed Steve Jobs, like him or not, built in, like, this is. We'll talk about this, changed marketing forever, changed people's lives forever, like it or not, it has. So what comes to mind for you? If I say a brand that I admire, is there anything that comes to mind? Anything that's like, I love it?
They've taken a hit lately, but up until a couple of years ago, well, and still same. I mean, it's a hard time, but I've always, when I do Superhost training.
Okay, yeah.
About companies that have a good brand.
Yeah.
And stuff, and I use WestJet because they usually, and I know they're calling WorstJet right now, but the challenges are such that I'm sort of taking those 2 years and waiting. Sure. Because it's extenuating circumstances, right?
That's a good one.
They count, man. They count.
Yeah.
No matter what they do. but I use WestJet a lot.
Yeah, that's a
They
good
have
one.
brand. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done their like seasonal videos. If you ever seen the videos they do around Christmas, are just like amazing. Like, and that's true to their brand. Yeah. One thing with WestJet that's super important. We were able to talk to Don Bell. He's one of the originators of sort of that WestJet ownership. He was one of in the ownership group way back when. He's not anymore. He's retired, but was lucky enough to sit with him at a dinner once, and he said the biggest thing for him is that you'll see it here, it's authentic. It truly is who they are. That, like, in order to be, like, you can't just market it and hope that it just happens. Now, yeah, I agree. The last 2 years I don't count as well, because that's like no one expect. How do you pivot in something like that? It's really hard. You're not going to make everyone happy. You're just not. But that's a good one. Love it. Anyone else? Anyone have a brand that they love?
Starbucks.
Okay.
I used to manage a Starbucks, and they what I loved was like how community driven, even though it's this big company, in your area, they were really big on the community and like figuring it out. And, like, I don't know, I really loved it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Starbucks, I was just talking about yesterday with a client, is that when Starbucks started, the goal was they wanted to create this place where you can hang out with your friends and family, bring your laptop. It was actually a gathering place. Like, yeah, you had to spend $5 for a coffee, but hang out. That's sort of what, now they're changing a little bit. Now they drive through and get you out, but for whatever, But the other part is, part of it is when you're holding a Starbucks, it makes you feel like, oh, look, I'm cool because I got a Starbucks, right? Like, but it is, like, but it 100% is, right? It's beer's done that forever. Like, I remember way back when I started going, like, I used to drink Sleeman's because it was the clear bottle, because I'm like, this is super cool. Like, like, I think, but that's part of marketing, right? That experience, right? Like, Apple spends how much money in packaging because they make you feel like, oh my gosh, look what I got unpacking, right? It's just a computer in the end, really. I mean, ultimately, right? So, anyone else have any brands? Those two are great. Anything else come to mind?
I like MEC, which is another brand that is gone.
Interesting.
Really, because their board was.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Mountain Equipment Co-op.
MEC, Mountain Equipment Co-op.
Yeah.
But they have really gone back to promoting the outdoor and the sustainable piece.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely went through a time where people were dropping off.
Right.
But they seem to have come back, and they understand now.
Interesting.
Who they are, and I like the products they sell. It meets my needs.
Yeah.
And their return policy is fabulous, and just the whole experience of.
Interesting.
Let me see.
Neat.
Yeah, so.
Cool. Last one I have, and I swear that I'll do some work. If I asked you one word that describes your business, could you tell me one word that describes your business?
Fun.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay. I love it. Okay. Cool. Anyone else? One word that describes your business.
Community.
Okay. Like it.
Yeah.
You guys are good at this.
help. Helping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, don't let anybody in there.
I know.
I know.
You have low standards.
What?
Yeah.
I'm stuck on that one. Like, they're just, maybe that's part of the problem. There's too many things we're trying to do.
Fair enough. And I mean, part of it is like, it's hard. It's hard to say one word as well. We asked to do an exercise I'll share with the sheet with you guys is, I always say, like, we're on the 16th floor in an elevator or at a building, and by the time we get to the lobby, you got to tell me what you do for a living and why I should buy from you. So your elevator speech, you've probably heard, that's another good exercise to have as well, because when you're in public and someone asks, hey, what do you do for a living, right? It's more than just, I want a pub, right? There's more to it, isn't there, right? There's more than, I just have a food truck, right? There's more to it, and get that, but you only have, they always say the first 7 seconds of an interaction are the most important 7 seconds. So if you walk into a business, your first 5 to 7 seconds will in your mind, you're already going to make a decision if you like it or not. right, subconsciously. So it's really important. And this came actually a client we work with, they're called Motorwork out of Kelowna. They're a repair shop and they only do like import vehicles. But he said to me, Chris said, like, the most important thing for me is the first 7 seconds of when a client walks in. I'm like, that is so interesting. And you think of, you walk in, I remember going to mechanic shops with my dad, you know, greasy tools, you could eat off the floor at Motorwork. Like, but it's important to him. It's really important to him to walk, because people are dropping off Lamborghinis, Porsches, like they want that experience. So that's important to him, right? And I thought that was interesting. I was stuck in my mind that the first 5 to 7 seconds, how important they are. So sometimes you only have a few seconds or a few, you know, a couple minutes is a long time. Think about it, right? So it's just something to work on as well for you as well, okay? Oops. So this will be the simplest slide we'll probably see all day, but I live by this. Like it's like it sounds silly, but it's so important that in order to have successful campaigns, all the stuff we're talking today, you need the right message to the right consumer in the right medium. If any of these are not aligned, it's not going to work. Right, so we talked about, you know, maybe Facebook isn't the right place to be, because we've talked about this before in this area, right? Like that if I'm in Sorrento and I want to market to people in Sorrento, I'm going to probably use different tactics if I'm in downtown Toronto, right? So, but you need to know your environment and who you're, but in order to do that, you need to know who you're trying to reach, right? These two are the hard parts. I know it sounds silly, but this is actually the easiest one. It really is. Like if you have these two nailed, this because you know, if I'm trying to reach an 18-year-old male, you should know which mediums. We're not going to buy a newspaper. We're not going to, right? So you're going to probably be on Snapchat, TikTok, like you're going to use those mediums. So this one's an easy one, but these have to be. So when we're talking today, all the stuff we're talking, think about this, and I have this slide up a few times in the presentation, but this is it's simple, but super important. Have it by your desk and say, I need to have these 3 nailed before I do anything. Super important. So we're going to talk about brand first, and like I said, then we'll talk about digital marketing probably the second half, and make sure that we get through it all. So we're going to look at a couple things. So one is 5 steps to brand building. I'm going to give you some things to take away on that as well. Then we're going to jump into some digital marketing, and then we're going to talk about brand story. I'm big on storytelling. I believe that's what's missing in a lot of people's marketing right now is the story. People connect with people. Like I use. My lawyer left his law firm and went to another law firm. I followed him. I was there because of him, not because of the logo outside. Right now, as a business, you don't want to hear that, because I'm like, oh, the clients are here because they love Czek Creative. Well, no, probably because they like Nikki and Rob and Ryan, and you're right. That's the connection. Like, you know, this morning it's like, oh, it's awesome working with Ryan. He's one of our partners. Yeah. So if Ryan left, some clients might leave, because they like that connection, right? So think about that. To me, it's about the storytelling, why you do what you do. People connect with that. And everybody has a story. Everybody, that's a campaign. Everyone has a story, right? Everyone truly does. So we want to talk about that. So the one thing, some myths, brand is not a logo. I hear that all the time. I like a new brand, so can we get a new logo? I'm like, I don't even care about your logo. Have you ever bought anything because you liked someone's logo? I don't know. I probably can't even tell you half the logos out there, right? I can't, drive around and look at billboards. How many billboards? Can you name any of the logos? Like maybe some of the big brands, Remax, Tim Hortons, sure. But on a local small business scale, I don't give a crap what your logo. I really don't. Like no one's going to come to you because of your logo. I don't put a lot of emphasis on a logo. Like it used to be, you know, agencies will charge you, I don't know, I think the city of Kelowna spent 80 grand on their logo or 100,000. Like why? Like is that?
Do you know how many businesses spend money on just a?
In tons of money.
Yeah, and it's incredible, and and then what do you do with it? So just remember, your brand is not your logo. Yeah. Like it's so much more to it. Brand is not an identity. It's not just what the look of an ad is. It's more than that, right? So these all have to fit together. I get it, but it's not, as in isolation, it's not just that. It's not a product. So it's not just the phone or the computer, it's everything else they've done for all the years that makes who the brand is, right? So it's not your product as well. So what is a brand? So a brand is a person's feeling about a product, service, or organization. They're defined by the individuals, not the companies.
in markets or general public. So I always say for me, and I think it's maybe the next slide, it's not what you say it is what they say it is. So your brand is what your clients think your brand is. Now, it doesn't matter what I think it is, it's what the client thinks it is. And if I'm doing a good job, we should be aligned. But if I'm not doing a good job marketing, we're not going to be aligned. So I've had situations where clients have said, we want to be this high-end brand, and then I always do site visits when I'm doing strategies because I want to see the place of business, I want to talk to the staff, so they better be executing on that. And we're like, you need to paint the walls and change your furniture before we even spend like a penny on your brand, because you're going to go out and tell people you're this, and they're going to walk in and experience this, you're never going to get them back. Right? That is brand. Brand is like the color, the how you pick up the phone and answer, what your email signature looks like, what is your vehicle wrapped, like all those little points make up what your brand is. Right? So it's not like you should not be spending more than, I don't know, $750 to $1,500 max on a logo. Like go to Fiverr. I don't care. And don't tell Nikki I said this, but but I am not a big believer in spending a bunch of money on just a logo. I really am not, because I'm hard pressed. Anyone can argue me that you never bought anything because of the logo. You buy because of the experience. You go to Starbucks because of the experience. You don't, because they can change the logo tomorrow. You're not going, I'm never going to go there. Look at their logo now, right? It's not going to happen. Right? So remember that it's what your clients think that your brand is, not what you think your brand is.
Would you agree it's important to keep fresh with your logo though? Like we just did the Social Swap just redid their logo to keep current and fresh. Sure. And, DVC colors.
100%. They should always be revisiting, how many times has Coke changed their logo over the year, or so they've evolved. They've evolved that to keep up with the times. 100%. So there's different ways of doing it though, right? There's imagery, there's color palettes, there's all this other stuff that you can do to keep. But yeah, you should always revisiting. Just keep in mind that just by having a logo doesn't look at my cool brand. It's everything else. It says you updated the logo, but you also came up with a really neat campaign, and new imagery, new website. There's all that is going to create that experience, right? When you say when it almost brought you to tears, it wasn't because of the logo, right? It's because of the experience and what it looked like together, right? The emotional side of it. So, yeah.
It's back on a point you made about what they say about it. Like when people leave an event at the hall, we hear what they say about it. And it's usually pretty positive stuff that we're hearing. But I'm assuming that part of the marketing is getting at those people that haven't experienced that yet, and getting them to say that same thing. That's where we're kind of having the disconnect. We're having repeat customers.
So how do you get new ones?
Yeah, and so I think that's where we're going to get there.
Yeah, no, but that's a good point, right? And that's knowing, again, back to what the goals are. What are the goals for you could be, hey, we have a really good experience. People like it, they come. We just need more people to come, right? That's different than the people who are coming aren't really liking what we're doing. We need to change it. We need to change that narrative, right? And I say always, the beauty of nowadays, and I'm jumping a little bit to digital marketing, but you control the message. You can control we've never in life of marketing since when I started, I never was able to control the message. It's whatever, radio, TV, newspaper, those are the big ones. But I didn't have access to hop onto the TV station and tell everybody how great my brand was unless I spent a lot of money and bought an ad. Now I can go on social media, I can go on Instagram, I can go on Facebook and go on TikTok and I can put messaging out there without even no cost to me. So now you can get that message, and we'll get through all that. But that's a good point. That's a good point that you brought up. And really, what I always say, remember that people have a lot of choices. I threw a pile of phone in here, but think about going into a liquor store and you're going to go buy a bottle of wine. How many choices do you have? Like 1,000, and not even hundreds anymore, right? And why do people buy? Why do you buy? How do you make a decision on what you're going to buy for wine? Either it's because the wine that you like, you've always sort of had. Hey, Robin said, hey, Rob, you should try this wine, or it's on sale, or sometimes I'm like, this is really cool label, I'm going to try it. Right? But really, but you do it, so you make decisions there's lots of options, right? there's lots of options for people nowadays, right? So, and I kind of, and I say facetious, but back to even with the pub, it's I don't know, I say, well, why should I choose you? There's lots of options for me to go anywhere to have a beer or get something to eat. You better be able to answer me and say, here's why. right? So that's where we want to work towards, and no different than our business. There's lots of people that create websites and logos and like literally you can find one in every street corner. Why us? Why are we different, right? And I think that's where that's important to kind of really know that and kind of work through that. And one of the things that people do is, again, I think people buy on either trust is a big thing. I want to feel comfortable. Like Rob and I got to have a good working relationship or it's not going to work. And it's okay. Don't feel bad about it. If Rob and I don't get along and we can't work together, it's not the end of the world, right? So it's I think part of it is being able to really, Robin has to trust me that I'm going to do what's best for her and the client, or we're not going to work together. Right? So I have to trust that when I order my Americano, it's going to taste like the last time I ordered it.
Yeah.
Right? McDonald's built a whole, definitely not the best food in the world, right? But you know what you're going to get. Doesn't matter where you're at, right? So, and I think they make a little bit of money, maybe.
Maybe jumping a little bit ahead of nothing.
Yeah, it's okay.
When you talk about you representing your own brand,
Yeah.
you're gonna get, where does that compare to, like, I know a lot of people nowadays do more about, they prefer more about, like, look at testimonials, right? Like, if I were going out looking for a new agency, I talk, and that's basically how I bounced onto Czech, really, was talking to other people in our area going, well, they're looking for Czech. What's so great about Czech, right? And I kind of...
And they all said Rob.
What's that?
They all said Rob.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And they said, no, Rob's the best. But no.
Yeah, no, fair enough, yeah.
And then that initial first meeting with Ryan, the first word out of his mouth when I said what we're trying to do, and he said, so in other words, you're trying to tell your story. It's storytelling. And I went, bingo, you got it. It's all about storytelling.
100%.
So he had me at storytelling. So how does that compare? You're trying to say how great you are, but then the testimonials, to me, those actually start to take more importance.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Testimonials are a super, super important part of your brand. 100%. Everyone should try to get, back to, I know, we're jumping a little bit about the question on, well, we have all these people that love what they do. How do we let's create, Seth Godin created this word called tribes, creating the tribes, people that love your brand. Let them be your brand ambassadors and go out and tell how amazing you are. That's the goal. Now, my not argument, but on testimonials is that someone had a really good experience. You had a really good experience at Czech Creative. I think part of it is because you were working with Ryan, right? You might have not had that same experience with another agency where they gave you, well, here's Sally who just graduated from university. Good luck, here's your account manager. You might have not had that, and you might not be saying the same thing you are today. So part of it is, we've been doing this for 25 years. We have a process, we have a system. We've stumbled, we've hit a lot, we've done things bad, we've learned, you learn over the years, right? We're not perfect, 100%, we mess up. But part of this trust comes from meeting customer expectations or being, part of it as well is stepping up and saying, yeah, we effed up. We made a mistake, but we're gonna fix it. Right? Like that, because it happens. Doesn't matter what business you run, someone's gonna order a talk and go, I don't like it. Right? It's okay. It's how you deal with it. Online reviews as well, because they're not all positive. And studies show that people don't trust if it's 100 5-star reviews and you have another one that's got 100 4.6 reviews, they trust the 4.6 more than the 5. Because they're looking at their 5 and like, that's BS. Yeah. That's all like your mom and your brother and your family telling you how great you are. Because you're bound to screw up. Like, you don't want 3 out of 5 stars, because there's not. So part of it is saying the reviews are super important as a tactic for sure. But I would say a lot of those reviews are coming because you're doing the right thing. It's about your personal brand. It's your process. It's all that other stuff that ties into why they've had that great experience, right? It's super important. You think about going into a business, and I don't care if it's ordering coffee or whatever it may be, if you don't get treated, if you have a bad server, unless the food is amazing, you're probably not going to go back. Right?
Don't you think, though, there is a difference between, I find a difference between testimonials and reviews. If I talk to somebody,
sure,
and I'm like, this is why we do destination ambassadors.
Right.
Circles, right?
Right.
We're actually assessing, is that person have the same benchmark as I do in the level?
Fair enough. That's a good point.
Go on reviews.
That's a good point.
Reviews are only TripAdvisor reviews are only as good as where their benchmark is compared to yours. Somebody could say, wow, I opened a bowl, opened Chef Boyardee ravioli, it's awesome, right? Well, if I'm Italian, I'm raised on Italian food. My expectation for Italian food is my benchmark's pretty high.
Yeah.
It better be, truly authentic. So if that person's raving about something, I don't know what he was raised on.
Yeah.
He could have been raised on ravioli, Chef Boyardee, right? So
That's fair.
It's about meeting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
Yeah, that's a fair comment, and it's interesting because I'm Italian too, and so I never order pasta from Boston Pizza. Yeah, my mom would yell at me. Yeah, that's a good point though. Yeah.
Just, I'd like to
Yeah, sure.
introduce Michael Shapcott. So to everybody, Michael is the, what is your title?
Executive Director.
That's right, of the Sorrento Center.
Oh, cool, awesome.
And Michael would just like to do a welcome.
Yeah, please, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, you should have stopped me earlier.
Actually, learning a lot. So I'm Michael Shapcott, Executive Director here at the Sorrento Center. Welcome to our center. I'm sorry we couldn't have sunshine. We had sunshine yesterday, and we may have sunshine a little bit later in the day. And I'll just
please do.
See, there's some people online as well.
I'll flip over here.
So I want to apologize for not being here when you started, because normally I would, of course, welcome people at the beginning of the session. And I was driving our food van into Salmon Arm. One of the things Sorrento Center does, our commercial kitchen, is we prepare and send foods in prepared meals for people who are hungry. In the last 2 years, we've done about 60,000 meals out of our little tiny kitchen here. And it wasn't part of what we thought was our brand. You can pay me afterwards. So it wasn't part of our brand, but we are a values-based nonprofit organization. And superficially, we look like a resort, a comfortable resort, not quite lodge or high-end resort, but we look like a sort of comfy place. And over the course of a normal year, by normal I mean non-COVID year, we'll have. We host the world's largest, the country's largest banjo festival. And, we host quilting retreats, and we have spiritual events and retreats of all descriptions and so on. We really aspire to have excellence in programming. When COVID hit, we went through an exercise, and it was actually an external shock to us and for many of you as well, to reassess what we're doing. Because we couldn't open our campus to hundreds of people to come and do things. When I think 3 years ago, the year before COVID, along with the Chamber of Commerce, we had a community, a nonprofit day here. Unfortunately, it was also a rainy day, as I recall, and not.
Congratulations.
So another good thing about branding and marketing is look at your calendar. Anyway. We also believe in generous hospitality, and for us, what that means is offering a good place for people to gather, both in person and online, and also a place where people can feel really at home and wander around our main campus here, our farm, which is just down the road, 2 acres down the road. As COVID hit, we realized that we also wanted to be a good neighbor. And so along with Karen and along with many others in our community, we organized the Shuswap Social Services Network, which has grown to about 55 organizations, nonprofit organizations, government, some businesses. And we meet on a regular basis and basically just share information, what's happening. And so the Safe Society, which works with victims of violence, will say what their situation is. Early on, it became clear, and this is how our food program emerged, it became clear that people were going hungry at the beginning of the pandemic because many of the food charities had to shut down. They couldn't meet the enhanced public health standards. So we said we have a commercial kitchen, and it's the flu. It's going to last for 2 weeks. We've got lots of food in our freezer. That'll be no problem. Didn't last 2 weeks. And that introduced another issue for us, for me as executive director of the nonprofit organization. Our mission in life is not to make money for our shareholders, because we have no shareholders. Yay. But we do have a set of values, and so we have to live into our values. And one of our values is that we have to pay our staff, and we have to pay the electricity bills, and pay for other things. So we had to figure out ways to generate money for new ventures that were different from what we had done before. And I'm happy to say that the BC government in particular stepped up, and we said to them that it's everyone's responsibility to deal with hunger in our communities, and your responsibility as government to help us to be able to supply local needs. Anyway, I won't say any more about all of that, but I do want to say welcome to you. We're very delighted that you're here. The elevator pitch, I'll just say this before I sit down, because
That was a long elevator ride.
the elevator pitch for the Serrano Center is really just two words. And we had this brilliant person who was helping us with our marketing and stuff a couple of years ago, and helped us figure out two words that we really like that help us. One of them is abundance, and the other is belonging. And we really feel that is what brings people here. The food is okay. This food is good. The food is good. Sorry, it's not okay. The food is good. Although our food delivery truck didn't arrive yesterday because we keep getting short deliveries, and that's another issue that many businesses have to deal with here in the shoe swap and farther away. But abundance and belonging are what we like to say, and abundance is, of course, not how we define abundance, like we'll shove a bunch of stuff at you, but it's how our guests, what they're looking for. So some of our guests come here we just had a quilting group here, and for them, it's being able to engage with other quilters and spend 7 glorious days just sewing and sewing.
It's amazing to see
That's
these people
crazy.
come in with their cars, back in with these big machines and stick them on tables. And, yeah, it's.
It is brilliant. It's brilliant. And it feels good to be able to give them a place where they can experience the abundance of quilting, and the same with the banjo players. And so on. So I won't take it.
No, it's great.
Thank you for
That's
allowing
good.
me to,
No problem.
to interrupt. I have to dash off. I wish I could stay here because this is a rich and important session, but I'll get the notes from Karen.
Before you leave, as host, I know how important it is for you. You've done made such tremendous strides in the Truth and Reconciliation journey and acknowledging our the Indigenous peoples. Maybe you could give a quick recognition of the land that we are on today.
Thank you very much. So we are in Siwapnikulu, the traditional and unceded territory of the Secwepemc Nation. There are 4 bands that are of the Secwepemc Nation that are sort of within relatively close proximity of us here. We are deeply grateful to be able to live and to work and to play on this traditional land. We are theming a number of our events that we're programming this year around reconciliation, including a really exciting event that also coincides with the Salmon Run, which is significant from an environmental perspective, significant from a land perspective, significant for Indigenous people and for non-Indigenous people as well. It's a big deal. I think there's somebody in this room that's doing some work on that. Am I right? Robin. So we are great. And part of what we've been doing, especially in the last year and a bit, with the discovery of the unmarked graves, first of all in Tecumloops, and then in some of the other former residential schools in the area, is engaging not only in an exercise that is sometimes quite painful. It's a listening exercise. So we've been invited to many sacred circles where we've just heard the stories. There have been a number of ceremonies to bring the spirits of the children home from their unmarked graves to their home communities. And also exploring what reconciliation means in terms of, beyond apologies. Apologies are important. And beyond that, what we can actually do. We welcome Indigenous elders. We have an elder at the moment in residence with us, and we welcome them, and they share very generously their wisdom and knowledge, and we're very grateful for that. So for us, reconciliation is a big part of our life here at the Sorrento Center. We create opportunities for those sorts of things to happen. We also started a campaign, and I'll end with this story.
No, it's good. No, it's good.
Because I used to live in Toronto where they have really big elevators. We last year, of course, was a year of a lot of climate change and weather catastrophes, and an increased awareness of the Anthropocene human-induced climate change. And we experienced it here. We had the White Rock Lake fire, as many of you know, just over here, and there were many days on campus where the embers were coming down, the ashes were coming down, and it really felt as if one of the greatest things about the Sorrento Center, which is our location in this beautiful, we call it sacred, shoe swap, this place, that it seemed that Mother Nature was, as one of our visitors said, very pissed at the moment with humans, and was expressing displeasure in very, very violent ways. We welcomed evacuees who were staying here because of the wildfires. And so we decided that it was important, after going through that summer and of terrible situations, that we wanted to invite our guests to fall back in love with Mother Nature. And because we said, part of the issue is we shouldn't be seeing us as separate from nature, and that, we're humans and that's the environment and so on, but we're all part of this beautiful world, flesh and bones, and the creatures and the trees and the water and the mountains, and explore all the things that bind us together. So we had a beautiful campaign. We have, although we lost one of our great marketing people, we actually got a new marketing person.
I used to work for this.
And our new marketing person working with us came up with a great campaign where we invite people to come to the Sorrento Center, fall back in love with Mother Nature. And the very day we were about to launch the campaign was the day that the landslides and all of the Cupello was washed away and so on. So we decided it would be a bit tone deaf of us to do a marketing campaign saying fall back in love with Mother Nature, when Mother Nature was expressing once again her displeasure with those of us humans in very tangible ways. So we delayed that campaign for a while, but we've now launched it, and it's resonating a lot with people because people are feeling very much like they understand the weather catastrophes that are happening around the world and the climate change issues, and they understand that they don't want to be in a hostile relationship with the natural world. Anyway, thank you for letting me.
No problem.
I saw a strategy I'm going to send you from yesterday about reconciliation.
Oh, good. So, and if ever I can be of any assistance, and if you would like to host an event here at the Sorrento Center, we're always welcome. You're always welcome. You can contact us. Our website is sorrentocenter.ca, and we apparently are on TikTok, although 50 to 60 years too old. But we also have, of course, Facebook and all the usual things. Anyway, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry that it took so long.
No, it's quite all right. Totally good.
Oh,
Yeah. Actually interesting, because that's interesting that they pivoted with their NER brand
yes.
to meet the needs of the community and the market as well. So that's interesting, right? So
Yeah, it's the process here. So I was here for about 10 months, was brought on to help them with some of their marketing. And when you see the Sorrento Center, the logo and etc. that you see when you came in, that was part of the work that I helped them do with a really creative artist out of the Kootenays, and he was here for a festival actually, and he had all this artwork and all this, and I said to him, can you create something, like that shows, and we had, and I sent him a whole bunch of things, and he created this kind
Very
of
cool.
look for the center, and it was, it was fun, really fun going through that process, because he had never actually created a brand
Right, right.
as an artist, right? So it was really fun to work with him and to think about doing stuff. And
Very
we had, we were working with you at the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
as well too. So we kind of put that all together with this artist to create this new brand for
very neat.
this rental center. So it was fun. That was a really fun project to work on.
Yeah.
Because it was, you get that really creative side, and then the functionality of creating a brand that's going to work and bring, So
That's
it was
very
fun.
neat.
Yeah, it was fun.
Definitely has the talk track down. Of right? Of knowing who the brand is, who
Yeah.
like that's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah,
good.
And that's, it was fun. So it was fun to do.
Cool.
When you were talking about vehicles, I think to myself, with the Chamber and the Arts Council, both hats I wear, it's almost like I consider myself a Lego vehicle or a transformer.
That's awesome.
Because
I love it.
You're always shape-shifting, right? You're always meeting the needs of, and certainly COVID, I think the last 2 years, I mean, what we did as a chamber, I can tell you, the power of marketing, we have McCain Marketing, we have a marketing.
Right.
Right? But we doubled down on our marketing budget, like we doubled it. For many of you who are chamber members, we went from 750 to 1,500 a month. But our membership has grown. We're the only chamber in the region. This membership has grown. And it's through the power of the right message at the right time, using the right media.
Yeah.
What you're talking about. I need to, I'm here to listen basically today to learn, because I know I'm also in good hands with, what McKay's doing. But everything you're doing, everything you're saying, it's just like, I think I'm nodding, Rob, because I'm going, that's exactly, we had to make some major changes because COVID brought those things.
Yeah, for sure.
COVID really did.
For sure.
Anyway.
Good. Robin, what time do we break at 10:30? I just want to make sure we're ish.
Yeah, I mean.
You'll just tell me to.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure Connie's. So we're talking about sort of if just kind of circle back about in order to create a really strong brand, they need to trust. They need to trust the brand, and it's typically met by meeting or beating expectations. And I was telling a story last week about, again, office supply paper, which is not sexy, and you're like, why would you be talking about it? But there's in Kamloops, and I don't remember, it's Kamloops Office Systems, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but every time they deliver, you order paper, you order pens, he always left a pack of gum taped to the order all the time. So I know it's something so simple, but I talk about it all the time, right? Just these little things you can do to kind of exceed the client's expectations don't always have to be, it can be simple. It could be small little things. Like I mentioned the client Motorwork in Kelowna that does the auto, like he always has either a cookie on the seat or a flower in the cup holder, like just little things that are like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? It's not going to make or break, but it's just these little things that create that experience that really resonate well with the clients, right, and with your expectations. And people talk about it. I talk about it, right? And it's just, he's just delivering paper. He doesn't have to put anything because I just need the paper, but they still do these little things that are super important. So I'm going to jump in to talk about sort of, and hopefully we can do through these, and if we need to break we can, is sort of 5 different things on how to create really good brand, and then there's some worksheets that are in here that I'll quickly go through, but you guys can take them. I'll send you the link and you guys can take them away as well. So step number 1 is to be different, right? That's number 1. So we see, I think the stats show that we see over 5,000 messages a day, like brand messages a day, and people are like, well, that sounds like, but I'm like, I'm in this room and I see Apple, NEC, Starbucks, like you get inundated by brands all the time. I'm in West Kelowna. When I'm not in Kamloops, I have a place in West Kelowna, and when I drive into the office, I think I see 5,000 billboards, right? Literally, there's so many billboards. Last week I was in Victoria, I went to the Victoria Royals game, and I'm looking in the arena, and there's like rink boards, right? Like ads everywhere. On the ice, there's ads, like everywhere. You're getting inundated, and I think that's one of the things, like even if people are, I'm not a huge social media, it's funny because I'm not a huge, like, I know I'm in the business, but I'm not on social media a lot because I find it a lot of noise, and I think through COVID it's even become even worse. I think it's a platform for people just to like hate, and it's not like I don't want to buy into it, so I try not to. But I see that, you know, obviously there are areas we want to advertise, but Facebook is one that we hear all the time that it's just so busy. It's so busy. There's so much going on that how do you cut through the clutter? So one way is you need to be different, and I use the word in here sort of like you need to create that tribe. So how do you get people? How do you get your testimonials? How do you get these people that love your brand to tell other people about it? And that's so important. Go and put testimonials. Go and like we put together actual even campaigns that are just internal campaigns. We're not even going to go market to the outside world. We're going to market to our current clients and get them to love us and refer clients to us. We actually put strategies in place with clients just for that, right? So we had a law firm, they've changed now, but we had a law firm, they're actually our law firm in Kelowna, that when we first started working with them, we didn't spend a penny in the market for them. What we did is we said, we want you to send us every month, send us all the files that are closed. You can go through and pull out ones. And what we did is we created a round thank you card, which sounds like, wow, like we had to get approval from Canada Post because it wouldn't deliver a round card. So a round card, and inside we had a custom branded $10 Starbucks card. So everyone that the file closed the end of the month, you're going to get a Starbucks card saying, thank you for your business. Here's our other services. Go have a coffee on us. The joke was, I don't know, my lawyer always sends me bills, never sends me anything but a bill. So it's just kind of a little touch point. We ran that for almost a year and a half, 2 years before we started marketing into the rest of the world. So it was an internal campaign. That was back to what Robin just said, I didn't know you did printing. Well, shame on us. Like from a client perspective, if I'm a law firm, I want, it's a banking term, share of wallet, is that when I worked at the bank, they wanted, if Robin came in for a mortgage, I had to ask for investment, your checking account, your safe, it's called getting your share of wallet. Well, you want your client come in for all, like when all possible, they come in for all the services that you offer, right? So there's an opportunity, and no one's created more of a tribe than Harley and Apple. Right, Harley does an amazing job creating. I'm not a bike person, but from a brand perspective, they have events. You show up, like if you ride, you wave at the person that drives. Like, you know what I mean? Like they've created a real amazing tribe, right? When it comes to Harley.
That whole piece, they're going into the electric, right?
Yeah, it's amazing what they're doing, what they do.
Yeah, they just launched this whole, and it goes to the demographic.
For sure.
It's pretty.
Yep.
Because traditionally you think of Harley as an old guy.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's quite interesting what they've done to capture a market, right?
Yeah, they've done an amazing job creating a tribe. The other one is Apple. Like when Apple first launched, they even created a commercial. If anyone remembers sort of the PC and Mac commercials, there used to be the Mac guy was the cool guy and the PC was the nerdy guy, and they're making fun of the PC guy. But they were like, hey, if you want to go and buy $500 Dell, go ahead, or you can go buy a $2,500 Mac, right? So, and they didn't care. They created a tribe. They knew that not everybody was going to buy, but they got loyal that basically are like me now. I'm their best brand ambassador, right? They don't have to pay, right? So I actually pay them to and my partner Jim, he win a new iPhone, like literally right away. I don't care if it's like 2 days later, he's got to have the latest and greatest. I'm not that type of person on having the latest and greatest of tech, but I do like this. So they've created really good, you can do that with your brand. Like there's local brands, there's local, in Kelowna, there's some places that, I'm a coffee person, but there's places in Kelowna that I only go there. I don't go to Starbucks when I'm in Kelowna because they've created such a cool little brand. It's called Third Space. It's right by our office. I love it. Like I will go and no questions asked. That's where I go get my coffee all the time, right? So it's one location. It's not like this big brand, and they barely market. It's just the experience of going in there, right? So you can do it at a lower level, at a smaller level. It doesn't have to be Apple or Harley on that as well. The second thing is step 2 is collaborate. So back to sort of it takes a village to build a brand. So, it's like making a movie. You see the end, you go in and watch this big Marvel movie and it's amazing, but think about the thousands of hours that have gone and all the people that are involved to bring that to life. Your brand's the same thing. And part of it is that, for me, is that you need to bring your team into this. Like if you're a sole proprietor, it's a lot easier, but if you're not, you need to have your team. So, if you think of, the pub or whatever, maybe is that your servers. so important. The experience, if you have the bartender, like that, it's so important. Everyone needs to buy into that. We had a client called SK Forum. They're a cement company. They do everything from driveways to big buildings or the hospital renovations, all this sort of stuff. But this years ago, we rebranded them, and Angie, one of the owners, like took that brand and literally like brought it through the whole company. Like she started doing breakfast every morning for the employees. She started like just really owned the brand and brought it to life. And it's so important. They're all like little things that when they show up on the site, it's branded trucks, branded shirts. Like it has to be like just, I know it's little things like that, but that's what their brand was, and they carried it through everywhere. So it's not, don't take it all yourself, is what I'm saying. Don't have, all the weight doesn't have to be on you. You need to work with your team to make sure it's that, because you can't be there all the time. Like I have to be comfortable saying, if I'm not in the office today, I know that when someone calls the office, they're going to have that experience that we want. Right? That's so important, and that's us making sure that you're delivering that through all your areas and internally into your company. So step 3 is to innovate. So, I think that just the story that we just heard, right, of here, they've had to adapt. Right? Things happen. You get stuff thrown at you, market changes, supply chain issues, there's things you can't control, and sometimes you need to adapt and innovate. And, I guess back to even some of the brands like Apple, they've had to innovate. You just said, Harley's releasing electric, but like they've had to innovate, where you've had to, but you can do it at a smaller level. Like I have to check myself sometimes saying like, we're not Apple, I get it, but we can do it at a local level. Like what can you deliver in your business that maybe no one else is doing? Can we find something? It doesn't have to be about spending money. It's just giving yourself time to think. I call that windshield time. I'm on the road a lot. I love my windshield time. It's my time that I don't answer the phone. Like I'll block it off and I'll put travel in my calendar, and people know, unless it's an emergency, do not call me, because that's my thinking time. I need to think, right? And because if not, you just go through the day and you're like, I just want to go to bed, right? And you do it all over again, right? So you need time to kind of step away sometime and just say, I need to think. I need to see, what can I do different? Think about, I'm not going to talk about this today a lot, but I think about the customer journey. I don't know if you guys have heard the term, the customer journey map. So what I think about is, think about of a client that has never heard of us before, right? So you're saying the client has never heard of us before, to the day that they become a client. What are all the steps they're taking to do that? And how do I talk to them with marketing through that's a really important step to take. And I do have a good worksheet on that, and maybe I can include it if I remember. Maybe Robin, if you remember to ask me to include it, I'll put it in for everybody to see. Yeah. So it talks about customer journey mapping and the areas you can look at. So obviously someone doesn't know they need to find you. Well, how do they find you? There's things you can do. Make sure your website, you're optimized. You got to Google Google page up. Doesn't cost anything to have a Google page. Make sure you have one. Like those sort of things, like those little things. Then they find you. Do you need sales collateral? Do you not? And then they become a client. A lot of people stop there. There's still more steps. Now, how do I make them a raving client to give referrals? What do I do? Do I send a card? Send a birthday card every year for my client base? Do I have a database? Like there's all these things to think about, but it's really important that you need to innovate at all those steps. Like leaving the flower inside the car is him innovating his brand. It's a simple touch it is, but it's just a little thing that makes you think, oh, that's kind of cool. Right? So, and I think you said at the start is like, how do you collaborate with other people? This is an opportunity to do that. Like look around the area and go, how can we work together? Right? How can I work with someone? Then how do we, maybe I'm going to do an event. I need a food truck. I need an event. I'm going to host it here. Like start bringing your sort of brands together and work together, because that makes a strong community. And then you align with brands that fit, right? And you might be able to get clients that typically wouldn't come. Right, so there's some unique things that you can do as well.
I use customer journey mapping.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly what it is when we teach Superhost, Foundations of Service Quality, and talk about raising customer service, which is the transaction, to the customer experience, right? Elevating it. So the journey mapping, people go online, they look for hotels, they come to the hotel, they check in, they go into their room, they go out for dinner, they whatever, right? It's the whole journey. what it shows you is we use the term touch points, right? What are those touch points? So the guy that's leaving the flower, the guy that's getting the gum, that's a definite touch point in that journey, because they're saying, I'm going to use this opportunity to elevate my own brand and my service, whatever I'm giving, and they're going to remember me because I left them a little thing of gum. It's a touch point. That's all it is. And the companies that do well, they do that well. They recognize the touch points, just like you're saying, Will. Like that is, the journey mapping is not an easy one to teach sometimes in the course that I teach.
Totally not, yeah.
It's the most important piece of the whole course.
So I used to manage Shuswap Tourism here, and we were looking for something that we could take to trade shows and you know, just some little giveaway but I wanted it to be locally made. So we found actually a company in White Lake that did local lip balm, and then we had the label put on it and stuff like that. So do you know that when we were in Vancouver, I used to have people come back
And ask?
every year for the lip balm. It was amazing. And they go, oh yeah, my friend's got lip balm. So, it was just this one little piece of marketing that we did, but and everybody really liked it because it was made locally. And
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a huge investment.
No.
Like, and that's the beauty of this stuff. Like, it could be a pretty cost. Like, I agree. Going through a whole process of customer journey map, it's a little daunting. It takes time. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. But just to think about, I'm hoping today even just think about, okay, what are my potential clients experiencing to get to me? And I love the word touch points. What touch points can I have in order to create that wow factor and that experience and that memorable experience? Because then if you do that, there's trust, and then there's more opportunity. When you mess up, because their chances are we will, it's easier to get that client back, because they've sort of bought into it already, right? So it's important. The other part is validate. This is important, and a lot of people are scared to do this, is to make sure that what we're thinking, because we have this great idea, is actually a great idea. And it's okay to go out and ask. Like I said back before, it used to be, the process used to be, basically more of a monologue approach, right? I'd push messaging out there and hope that it resonated with someone. Now you can actually interact with, you can go on your Instagram, like our Instagram page is one of our best lead sources. If someone comments or likes, we connect with them, we talk to them. Like, we actually have people in our office that do that. They're salespeople that do nothing but that. That's where they get all their leads from, right? So if they're commenting, we're making those connections. And so go out and ask. We just did, for a client, smaller client in Kelowna, we did an online and offline survey with their clients. So we invited them. We invited 20, I think 18 or 20 showed up online, and only about 12 in person for an event. But the idea, we told them, we have some ideas we want to do. We're going to run them past you. These are our top clients. We want to know. We think it's a great idea. Like a rewards program, they're like, we don't care about a rewards program. Then I'm not going to do one. If all my clients are telling me they don't care about a rewards program, why would I do it, right? So it's okay to go out there and ask and get feedback from your clients. I think that's super important. And people are scared because they don't want to hear. Right? A lot of times they're like, well, I don't know. What happens if they tell me it's no? Well, then you go back to the drawing board. It's okay. Right? I'd rather validate it before you go spend a bunch of money, right? And you change about your processes and before you do that. And then the last one is sort of like, I call sort of the cultivate. So, I don't know does anyone know Simon Sinek? Does anyone ring a bell, Simon Sinek? Yeah. Yeah, I love Simon Sinek. If you, I'm not sure if people like reading or YouTube or podcast. I'm a podcast person because I drive a lot. I'll play. If you are, look up Simon Sinek. He's known for his first talk was a TED talk around the why. Why do you do what you do? And I think it's so important to know the answer, that why. And he actually has a workshop. It's actually like a couple $100, not even that much, where it helps you sort of develop, why. What's the why? What? And that's your story, right? That's, you ground yourself into your story and what you do. And he has this thing called the infinite game. So business is an infinite game, which means, and if you're a sports person, at the end of a hockey game, there's a winner or loser, right? Doesn't matter. Like in life, there's not always winners. You don't win at marriage. You don't win, and that's his, you don't have to agree with him. That's what he talks about. In business, you never win because it keeps going, right? It keeps going and going and going. It's not like an endpoint, right, when it comes to business. So part of it is that this is like, you need to continually look at it. You need to continually cultivate your brand. It's not set it and leave, right? Because if you set it and leave, it's not going to work. You got to be, but when it's embedded in what you do, it becomes easy because it's just part of it's part of what you do every day, right? Rather than, it's the hard part is now, right? Where do I start? I have all these ideas. What do I do? We need to start, and then we need to just keep cultivating it, right? Keep no different than farming. You got to keep watering or it's not going to grow, right? You got to keep doing that. You need to keep changing the soil. You got to add manure. You got to add, like, you got to keep doing that or it won't grow, right? So it's so important for you to keep cultivating that brand. So Robin, you're going to say something.
Yeah, anybody that's in the tourism industry, it shifts continuously. Your what people like to do shifts continuously, and working in that industry, just keeping it fresh and ensuring that things that people want to do and want to experience, and so it's continuously, just making sure that you keep that. And I agree with you. You really need to do that
All the time.
all
Constantly.
the time, and I think businesses that set their brand and then they just keep carrying on.
Right.
People they lose customers and they lose people just because it's not fresh, right? So yeah.
So one of the things I do, it's called the hand test, and we can do it. So Robin can, if you flip your computer around really quickly, like if I cover this logo on Robin's computer, do you guys know what kind of computer this is? Right? So to me, it's like, even think about, I think about going to, I'm not sure, like billboards or whatever, like if you pass, can you name the billboards that you pass? Most likely not. A lot of people can't, right? You can maybe name, well, I see a face all the time, right? In realty, there's always people, so you can connect with that. But this is sort of like a little bit of a test that if you should be able to, the goal for me is to work with a client that it doesn't matter what the logo looks like, they know who it is. They see it and they know who it is, right? And it takes time back to cultivate. It doesn't happen overnight. It's the analogy someone said, and I loved it, was a podcast. He's like, so marketing is like, think about going to the gym. So I want to get into shape. I'm going to go to the gym twice this week and I'm going to be like in shape, right? That doesn't happen, right? So you're like, what do you mean? I have to go more than twice? It's like, so you're not going to just run a radio ad and go, oh my gosh, it's going to change. Yeah, exactly. So, it's no, business isn't not, you got to get up, you got to go to the gym 3 times a week, you got to eat healthy, you got to, like, it's the same thing. It's not, there's no magic pill for it, unfortunately, right? So, and a lot of clients will come in thinking there's a magic pill in marketing, and it's just not. And it's not cookie cutter. Like, even though today I'm kind of talking about a bunch of stuff, everyone's different in the room. 100%. Like, I can't say everybody go do one thing and it's going to work. It's just not going to. Like, part of it is just knowing who you are and where you want to get to with it as well. But it's super important. Like, this is one area, like I said, I keep, and there's not a lot of brands that you create this, but a lot, like, again, like I could cover probably even the cup here and you wouldn't, like, you just know, like, you get a sense of brands that have done it really well. You don't need to know who the logo. So back to when I was saying, I don't put all the emphasis on the logo. It's about the experience. It's about that story. That's what's super important, right? So, so let's say we've done all this stuff. So we've done all the right things. You've been able to zig while your competition zagged and all that fun stuff. So you're going, now what? What do you do, right? So that's the important part. So should I jump into this, or do you want to break?
I'm just yeah.
Do you want to keep going and you're going to go check?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me go check and see what's.
Okay.
I can go check if you want.
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to use the washroom.
Yeah, no problem.
Responding to negative reviews.
Right.
There are, like, we really do have a very good product with our fish and chip. People love it. I've had numerous complaints, or numerous responses, good responses. But 0 complaints, except for, you always get that one token guy who leaves a 1-star review, says it was the worst thing he's ever tasted, tasted like his ex-girlfriend, and all this kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, right? And it's just like, you have nothing but 5-star reviews, and then you got that 1-1. So, what I've done in the past is I've always just, oh, I'm really sorry, it must have been this, must have been that, must have been this, must have been that. Do you find that placating to them is better, or just being like, you know what, I'm sorry you had a bad experience, but everybody else has had a great experience, please come back? Like, what's your best?
Yeah, I mean, everyone will be different, but in general, first off, respond. I love that you respond. Now, if it's someone that's completely off rocker, I wouldn't respond, to be honest, because your people will see through that. Like, I wouldn't worry too much about if someone's like, especially now, like I said, social media is easy to kind of be, it's easy to be tough on Facebook and Instagram. So one of the good tactics, as someone had told me before, is respond to it, but ask to take it offline. Hey, please call me at my number, love to chat about it. Too bad you had the experience, love to get you back in to experience it. Like, and that works really well because most people won't. But you've done your job, right? So people are going through and like, oh, they're responding. I mean, hotels, tourism, you get a lot. Like, you can find any, but the ones that respond get a lot more value than the ones that just don't. So I wouldn't necessarily defend. Like, that's not probably the right thing to do, is like, well, I don't know, everybody else said it's good. Like, I wouldn't take that approach. I'd be, because people, like, back we were saying, like, some people think, you know, maybe Chef Boyardee is a good experience and some people don't. So I think part of it is just saying, hey, thank you for the feedback, first of all. You know, sorry that you've had this experience. Love to have you back in. Please connect with me here, and I'd love to set it up. So, yeah.
Like, we take a lot of pride in those that are homemade, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't that it was the price point, is what it was for them. And, you know, and so I did respond and apologized, you know, that they had a bad experience or whatever. And when we opened up that morning, I told my daughter, I said, make me taquitos, make them pretty, I need pictures. She goes, and all I did was we made fresh homemade chips as well.
Okay.
And I added some chips, and I took a nice picture, and I threw out an advertisement, you know, served with fresh chips.
Yeah.
We went through taquitos like,
like crazy.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I thanked her because we're new, and all the feedback helps us learn and grow.
100%.
That's all it did. And yeah, it was fabulous.
Yeah, no, I think, and some people are like, you know, that even turn off, I don't believe in that. It's like, I mean, it's part of, when you get into the social sphere, you're going to have to put up with it. But I'm awesome that you're responding. That's number one. But I would say, yeah, just like we talked about, just say, hey, sorry you had a bad experience. Thank you for the feedback. Love to get you back in if you can. And you know, and like I said, most people, they won't respond, or they'll take you up on it. And then sometimes I've seen where they turn it around. Hey, they responded and all cleared up, right? So it's okay to do that. Yeah.
So there is muffins.
Okay, we'll take a quick break then. We're into the...
So just three.
We have like a huge audience, a line of 3 people. So.
Hey, welcome.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's right. Awesome. So Robin's saying we're good till lunch is at 12:30. So we'll probably go right through till 12:30 now, so we can get through everything. But again, coffee, water, whatever, just feel free to, if I'm boring you, to get up and go. So I'm just going to finish up a little bit of brand, then I do want to get into digital marketing, because that's really typically the fun part, what people really want to talk about. So the next few slides, I'm going to go really quick, because these are the ones I was saying, they're worksheets for you guys to take away, and we'll just send you the slides and we'll share it with you as well. So this is helping develop and there's a lot more, but if a client hired us to do a brand strategy or a marketing strategy, these are the worksheets I use. So I just kind of pulled out about 4 or 5 of them for you, and they're really just questions. Like, they're questions for you to answer, to kind of go through. So I'll kind of just go through these a little bit as well. So there's about, I don't know, 5 or 6 on each slide. So this one here is sort of creating sort of your vision. It's sort of the base, the starting point. So some things that you, like, grab a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be fancy when you do this. Like, I don't care, write on a napkin. I really don't care. Like, you know, list 5 things that you feel that are working for you right now, right? So don't think just marketing and brand. Like, you might say, our food is great. Right? Our products are great. So that could be number 1. Our staff is great. Like, so list 5 things. And the reason I do that first is because typically people come to us with like, we need to change everything. And I'm like, you must be doing something right. Like so it's just more validation to go, oh yeah, actually, you know what? These 4 or 5 things are actually really good. Like, so that's where we start. So list that. On the other side, list where do we things we want to improve? Not things we're doing bad, things where we have opportunity to improve, right? So let's list those out as well. Because as you see, you're starting to get some clarity on where you're going. The third thing is, let's list some goals, right? So I like to I put 12 months. I typically work in quarters. That's how I work. I say, okay, I think of a calendar year, Q1, we're just finishing Q1. Now what do I want to do in Q2? Like, so I typically work in quarter. I find I just work better that way, because when they're long-term goals, I'm a procrastinator, and I'm like, oh, I'll get to that the night before, right? So but I am. I've been like right through school, university. I typically will deliver, but I like chaos, and I work on. That's just the way that I work. Not for everybody. Definitely not for everybody. Some people, I'm probably the organizers in the room. I'm totally stressing them out, but that's okay, right? So start listing what your goals are, and try to be very specific on the goals, right? That's an important thing. Don't just say I want more sales. If it's like, I don't know, like if it's put a number, I want to grow, my monthly sales by 10%. I want to be at 5 events this summer. I want, like, whatever it is, like whatever you want to list, but make sure that they're actual goals you put on there. Think about areas of the business you'd like to grow, right? Because, for us, it was an important thing for us is that we saw an opportunity on, say, like the printing a few years ago. We're like, you know what, we don't like outsourcing it because we send it to XYZ printer and then they don't deliver on time Friday. And what am I going to do? Too late. Where we control the process, I can be there and go, hey, Joel, like I need it Friday. I don't care. You need to stay late because we take Monday off. But, so we're able to control that process. See areas of the business that you think there's opportunity to grow. And important thing is how you're going to measure success. So if you sit down in 3-6 months from now and go, everything I did worked, well, what does that look like? Right? So make sure you have some metrics in there as well. And then the last thing is, what are the messages you want to get out into the market? Like, so this is the part where you got to do a little reflection of saying, what makes me different in the market? Why should someone come to my business? Right? Think about that way. Put yourself in the customer's shoes and say, why would they come here? Right? And start listing them. Like, don't have to get fancy like any of this stuff. This doesn't need to be, you're not submitted it for marks, right? Like, just write it down on a piece of paper. I don't care, napkin, put it on a whiteboard, start typing. I like using notes on my computer, type sometimes audio, whatever it is, just start thinking. And as you start thinking about these things, they'll come to you at weird times as well, right? Just jot them down. Oh, it'll be really cool if we did this. Write it down, right? And you start creating. So that's one bucket. Again, you guys can take the sort of creating more of your vision. The second part is sort of around your brand value. And these are sort of fun exercises that we do. So start thinking that, if your brand disappeared, what's one thing you want to remember for? I always use, so say that you're not going to run today's your last day of your food truck and people are sitting down tomorrow having a coffee and talking about the experience they had. What do you want them to say? Right? Yeah. Right? So start thinking about that, right? Start thinking about what's the, as corny as it sounds, the legacy you want to leave as a brand, right? As a person, what do you want to leave? And if it is just for money, great. There's nothing wrong with that, but just define what it is and do that. Like, dollars don't motivate me, like I at all. Like, that's not the way I was raised or the way I think. Like, I truly like seeing success for businesses. That's success for me, right? As corny, like, I think the money will always come. That's in my, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I always think. You can always go do more sales and get more money. Like that's not, money's easy to find nowadays as well. So, so that's not, it shouldn't be the motivating factor. If you do everything else, that will come. I really truly believe in that will come, right? So nobody will ever say that our brand is what, right? So fill in the blank. So these are just really fun sort of like quick little questions. If your brand had a superpower, what would it be? If you could snap your fingers and change anything for your clients that you could do, or you can deliver something to your clients, what would it be? Right, think about that. And it's not like fly, for me, it's like success, like brand definition right away, like those sort of things like that come to mind for me. So just think of how they relate to your business. What are things that you believe in? And be authentic and be true to it. Like, some clients a lot now we hear is sustainability. Right? So be true to it. So make sure everything you use in your products are sustainable. If sustainability is important, make sure your napkins are recyclable. Make sure your straws are recycled. Like, think about that, because if you're going to say we want to be sustainable, because you think it's a cool marketing term right now, but everything ends up in the landfill, or you're not sourcing local, whatever. There's a disconnection, right? So, and it's different for everybody. And then what are we opposed to? Right, that's important as well. What do we don't want? And then the elevator speech, the elevator ride, right? And it's something that you can just practice. I don't know, amongst friends, look in the mirror, I don't know, whatever. Write it down. I like writing it down, talking it through. That's sort of how I work through, but it's important. These are things, like I said, we're not going to, typically I typically run a 4-hour session and we literally go through each one of these. But just for sake of time, I'm going to hand the keys to you guys to kind of do this stuff on sort of your own. This is a really fun exercise I do with clients is, if your brand was a chair, what chair would it be and why? So what we do is we literally just Google the word chair, we hit images, and we start scrolling. And we start looking at things. You start looking at color. You start looking at, I like that chair because it's got armrests and it's comfortable, but the experience in my business should be comfortable. Or, you know, we even had the opposite. We were doing some work with a personal injury lawyer years ago, and he picked a chair it was like a wooden chair, and he's like, because the experience is not comfortable. I'm not going to tell you it's all going to be roses. Like, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to go to physiotherapy. You're going to have days where you feel like you don't want to get out of bed. Like, but that's his brand, right? He wanted to be authentic to what it was. The best was, I'll never forget this, we're doing this session for a husband and wife, and they could not agree on a chair. And it was a technology company. I'm like, you become a counselor, because it's like, no, I want this and I want this. But part of it is the process. Like that, my job as a facilitator is to get everything out of your head and then work through it, right? I need to get it out. Like, and there's no right or wrong. Like, my job isn't to pick what's right or wrong. Is 99% of the time, the ideas come from the client. My job is just to get them out and facilitate them, right? I'm not here to tell you. So this is a really neat exercise. You can do it yourself, and look for things like color, you know, the experience you want. Maybe we had a client that picked a beach chair because they want that experience when they walk into their business of sitting on the beach, the sun, enjoy relaxing. Some of them are like leather chairs because you want that really high-end feel, but that lasts forever, that don't go out. Like, so just think about it. It's actually a really fun exercise. It only takes about 15 minutes to do, but it's a cool little exercise that you can do on your own as well. The other one, we use this thing called the personality spectrum. So you ask these questions to yourself from a brand, not personal. This is hard. You need to take your personality out of this a little bit. Is from a brand perspective, where do you fall? What side of this spectrum do you fall? Now you're starting to define your tone. You're starting to define the type of images you should use. So if you're fun, right? So all the images you pick should be bright and fun and enjoy. Like, and it doesn't always have to be about. So if you're in a restaurant, it doesn't always have to be about food either, right? Like, so I was on a jewelry website yesterday for another brand, and very little pictures of like jewelry on it. It was like pictures, like they're a very high-end brand, like pictures of New York, downtown New York. There weren't nothing, but you get a feeling, right? As soon as you see there, you get a feeling. So start thinking this through. I encourage, like, don't resist the temptation of going down the middle, because that's the cop out, right? Well, we're fun and serious. Are you? Like, pick what you need to really challenge yourself. The hardest one's the last one. This is the one that challenges most people. Are you accessible to all, or are you exclusive? That's in 99% of the people, 100% go to accessible to all. And I challenge every single one of them to say you're not accessible to all, right? Not every brand is. Do kids come in and buy your food truck? Like, does a 4-year-old come in? Is that who you're marketing to? Like, so think about, it's more like, I'm being devil's advocate, but part of it is really think about who you are and who your audience, and are you really accessible? And if you are, be accessible to all of them. That means your price point better be accessible to all, your location better be accessible to all, like everything needs to, but if not, think about how do you be, and exclusive is not a dirty word, right? Back to Starbucks. To me, I think Starbucks is exclusive. Anyone can walk in, but you got to be prepared to spend the money. So it is exclusive, right? So it's not a bad thing. So don't think of it as a bad thing. So go through this exercise with you as well. So the other part is, what's important is who's your audience, who's your target market. So some things to ask as well. My pet peeve in target audience is that I hear, well, everybody is. And I'm like, well, then you better have $1 million to market, because everybody's a lot of people, right? Or it's a 35 to 50-year-old female. Well, there's a big difference. There's a lot of different females between 35 and 50, right? So we try to dig a little bit deeper into that. Is who are you speaking to now? Who are they? So if you could picture your ideal client, if you just put a picture of your ideal client, who is it? Let's name them. We do that. We create personas. We name. It's Bill. It's Alan. It's Alice. She's 55. He's 52. He drives an Audi. He likes pets. He has 2 kids. We really dig deep, and you're like, well, how do I get this information? Google will give you all of it. Trust me, you can type in #1 selling vehicle for 50-year-old females in Canada. It'll tell you what the vehicle is, right? So you can find this information, and you're like, well, why is it important? 2 different sides for me why it's important. One is you need to get into mind what's important to your audience, right? So some people are different things will resonate, the reason they buy, right? So we're working with a little clothing store, one location in Kelowna right now, really small boutique store. And when we went through this process, and obviously females are their market, and then we went through, well, what about, I don't know, do husbands come in and buy GCs for their wives? Do they not? Well, I never thought of that. Like, so we talked that through. But on the other side is like, are they just coming to buy clothes because they're cold? No, because it's high-end clothing. It makes them feel a certain way. That's why they're buying it. It makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel good about themselves, and there's nothing wrong with it. And if you feel good about yourself, you're probably a better husband, wife, worker. When you're happy, you have a better day than when you're not, right? So that's what's important to them. They want it to be exclusive. Like, they don't bring a lot of, like, they'll bring one large and one meat. Like, they want something that their friends don't have, right? So right or wrong, but that's important. So we dig deep on that sort of stuff. So we look at who our audience is. And the other side of it is that the more you know your audience, the more targeted you can be and the less money you have to spend. Right? So if we know who our audience is really narrow, my argument is, and why would we ever buy a billboard? Nothing against billboards, we buy billboards. So anyone has a billboard, I'm not saying don't, but right? Because if you're not my audience and you drive by that billboard, I'm paying for you to see it. Pattison will 100% charge me for the people that drive by, but you're not my audience. But if you know who the audience is, if Robin's my audience, well, what media does she consume? Well, let's go talk to her. Nowadays with marketing, we'll talk with, I can literally geofence Robin's house and send ads to her house. That's how targeted you can be with digital marketing nowadays, right? And I'm not saying digital, it's only digital. Don't get me wrong, I buy radio, we'll buy TV, we'll buy newspaper, we'll do direct mail. To me, it's what the audience. We have a pharmacy client that caters to 65 plus. He does, ostomy, that's it. Buying traditional TikTok ads or Facebook ads are not going to move. Direct mail moves the needle for him because that's the demo. They like getting their mail. My mom likes getting the paper. She flips through it every night. She direct mail works, right? So let's use it, right? So, but knowing your audience will do that as well. So, think about what makes them nervous about coming to you. So think about, why wouldn't they come to you? Is there a barrier on, back to this clothing store, one of the things we found is that they're intimidated. They're not going to come into a boutique store because they already feel like they're intimidated. They're going to spend too much. They're going to, if I don't fit this criteria, what they're looking for. But when you walk into the store, it's like a little old house. It really is a little house. It's like you're walking into your mom's house. That's the experience you get. But how do you know that if you don't go and do the process, right? What's important when making a buying decision? List what's that, and then who do you want to market to, geographic wise, right? There's a difference. If you're like, I want to be all of Canada, to I just want to market to Sorrento. There's a big difference on that as well, right? And then this is a really important piece for me, because even when we'll talk about when we get to the digital side, is that everybody consumes media at a different pace and different times. So I'm a night owl. So if you want to talk to me, if you post something at 6 a.m., I'm not going to see it. Right? Not that I'm not up, but I'm not not online, right? But I go online at night. I'm up at midnight, that's just me, right? So you need to know that. If I'm your audience, you need to know that, because if you're posting organically at 7 or 8 a.m., you're just talking to empty audience. There's nobody there, right? So you need to dig deep, and you can find all this data is out there. So don't feel like, well, how am I going to get this? I'm not going to hire a marketing research company. Seriously, Google. All these reports are all out there. It's all out there. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out to me as well. We have a lot of this data. I'm happy to share it. So just, if you need anything. So it's an important part to dig through your audience. Like I said before, I don't spend a lot of time, through competitors, but it's something it's worthwhile. It's an exercise that everyone should go through. Who are your competitors? And there's two different sides. There's perceived competitors and there's actual competitors. And so a good example is a roofing company we did work with. So an actual competitor is other roofing companies. Perceived competitor could be Home Depot, because Rob's going to go buy his own shingles and change his own roof, right? So I'm not saying he's a client, but it's a competitor. Someone might say, well, I'm pricing it out and it's cheaper for me just to hire my buddy to do it, and I'm going to go to Home Depot or somewhere to buy it, Home Hardware to buy it, right? So there's two different sides that you need to look at. So who are your competitors? But what's unique about you as compared to your competitors? Again, just write them down, jot them down. What makes me different? And if you don't know your competitors, I don't know, visit them. Go to other food trucks, order. What are they experiencing? What are they not? And I actually think sometimes that's benefit, right? Car dealerships are all in the same area for a reason. Food trucks all show up in one location for a reason, because it just draws people in. It's not now a competitor, you're actually working together, right? So don't always have to be fighting against other people, right? Like we always say we play very well in the sandbox with other companies. Like, so if Mike's working for a client and he's like, sure, great, I'm not stepping on toes. How do I add value to their relationship? I don't care. Right? We have clients that have their own designers. Doesn't matter to me. Where do we add value? So don't always see that you always have to fight against your competitor. It's in media, historically, it's been like that, right? As soon as a client works for us, all of a sudden, newspaper, radio, they get up in arms. Oh my gosh, they're going to pull their buy. They're going to minimize. We're only going to pull it if it's not the right place to be. Right? So just think about how you can work with them as well. Why did clients choose you? Do you offer something different to your competitors, and maybe look at pricing, right? And am I saying they're right or wrong? I'm not saying look at pricing, lower your pricing, or not at all. Just know where you are in the space. Just know where you are in the market, okay? So these are things, like I said, for sake of time, instead of us going through every single one with everybody, that it would take us a while. Take them away. Maybe grab one of these, one every couple weeks, one a week, whatever it may be. If you want to do it all at one time, great. But start going through these questions, start answering, because you're going to start getting some clarity. You're going to start saying, oh yeah, this is who we should really be talking to. This is who I think my audience is. This is who I want to talk to. I'd love to have this type of client, but we're not catering to them right now. How do we find these people, right? So that it just gets you some thinking, and start mapping this out a little bit, what it looks like. Okay, so just some takeaway worksheets for you to do some homework. Like we're back in school. And you're not going to be graded, I promise. But if you're going through this, you have any questions whatsoever, Robin can share my contact info. I have reach out for, I have no problem, talking to you, giving you whatever I can, any advice or any insight that I have, happy to do that. Okay. I work for food, so I'm good.
Perfect.
And I work for beer, so. All right, so this is sort of the original. We're down to about an hour, so it's perfect. So this is kind of when Rob and I first started talking. We're like, we like to do a digital marketing sort of. So I know I spent the last hour or so talking more about brand, but I think it's so important to really foundationally know who you are and who your brand is or where you want to go before you jump into this. Because to me, this is the last thing. Like the tactical part, a lot of times when I first started in marketing, you always jumped to tactics. We always did. That was sort of common. Like, we got to buy radio, we got to buy TV, we got to, and then you're backpedaling. Well, what are we going to put in that space? Well, what are we going to say? Well, who are we trying to talk to? So we got to do that work first before we find what the tactic is. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit is sort of the journey of where we are today, sort of for digital marketing, and how we got to where we are today. So it's an interesting, it was actually really the exercise for me to go through, and I did this a few years ago, and I've sort of adapted this presentation now, obviously, as things change. But when it comes to digital marketing, there's lots of different options, right? So there's branding ads, there's social media ads, there's content marketing, there's email, there's video, there's app, and this goes on and on. And this is a graphic I found, but there's lots more. If you look at a real map, I could fill this sheet up with little dots, right? So there's just a lot out there, and it's always changing. So our job is to kind of cut through that clutter. But before I do, I wanted to kind of take a step back and a little bit of history lesson, and it was great for myself to go through the digital journey. How did we get to where we are today with digital marketing? It's always good sort of foundationally. So it all started sort of way back, August 6, 1991, which doesn't sound like, it actually is not that long ago when you think about it in the big picture. And the cool thing is August 6 is my birthday too. So if anyone wants to send me a Christmas or my birthday card, you can. This is the very first website. Yeah, this is the very first website that was launched August 6, 1991. So if you think about how old the internet is, or web is, it's not that old. It's crazy. The advancement in the same time frame from when it's launched to, say, when the first car launched, if you look at the model, whatever, there wasn't very much advancement. Now we're like TikTok, and we're like, I can geofence people's homes. It's really advanced quickly, but this was the very first website that launched way back when. So what happened next? So there's two really big days in my mind, dates in my mind, in sort of marketing through my lifespan. They're important. The next one is September 4th, 1998. Does anyone want to guess at all there's two, I kind of, hopefully I get a little bit away to say there's two big events that happened, launches that happened that really changed marketing. Does anyone want to just?
Google or YouTube?
Yeah. Google launched, right? Again, 1998. We're not talking 1962, right? Like it's not that old. Google literally changed. Now they're like, everyone says Google it, right? Then they bought YouTube, and now like they're in my mind, I think that's they own too much. That's just my personal opinion. You know, between Google and Amazon, and you know, I guess you can throw Facebook into as well. But Google and Amazon have like a massive market share to the point where it's almost too much in my mind. Like there's a seminar I was watching years ago about Amazon, that Amazon knows sometimes more about me than even my spouse might, because I might be on Amazon searching for books on depression, but no one knows I'm depressed. Like that's how crazy, like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because they keep they literally, you know, there's a big movement to get away from cookies now. I don't know if you guys have been reading, like cookies means basically online I can track everything you do. Don't know it's raw per se, but there's, you know, it tracks what you do, your activity. And there's a big push now to get away from that, but they're gonna find ways to get around it. It's just the way it is, But this was a really important, obviously an important change, because when I started in the marketing world, it was, like newspaper, radio, TV, billboard. Those are really the four main things you had to look. It was kind of easy, to be honest, to make decisions. So we wanted to reach a high-end market in Vancouver, we bought Globe and Mail ads. Right? If you wanted to reach, you know, we went to Seattle, we bought lots of radio ads, and it was so much. Now it's like craziness, right? But that was a big day. The second one, which I think is even more important than Google, was June 29, 2007. Anybody know? Guess? The very first iPhone was launched. This, to me, changed like lives, like I think even more than a car, like a vehicle. I really do. Like, this is now your everything. It's your TV, your radio, your search, your fitness app, your everything, right? You're paying. My sons pay. I'm like, where's your bank card? I don't need a bank card. Yeah. Scan. I'm like, what? like so, you know. And I jokingly say that like how important this is in the sense of like, if I just, because I drove from Kamloops today, and if I was like 20 minutes away from home and found out that I left my wallet at home, I'd probably keep driving. If I found out I left this at home, 99% I'd be calling Robin, like, gonna be a little late, gotta go back and get my phone, right? Because that's how, and I'll show you some studies, like, I don't know, it's now your alarm is to sit beside your bed because it's your alarm clock, right? And then you grab it in the morning. So it's so important, like this has really changed the whole marketing landscape, because it now allows us to be, there's the good and the bad, obviously, right? There's addiction, right? So on these phones, for sure. I see it in my kids, right? So they're sitting watching TV, but they're on their phones. I'm like, are you watching? Yeah. I'm like, are you though? Like, you're on your phone, put it down, like go park it somewhere. You can't, like, you know, don't have it at the dinner table, don't have like those sort of things. But interesting enough though, I'll leave it because I'll talk about it in a second, I don't give it away. But what it's brought advantage of though is that I can be really targeted. It's like, so we'll talk about geofencing, but like today I could have put a geofence, a virtual fence around this room and captured everyone's cell phones in here. I don't know who the person is, I just know the phone ID, and I can feed you ads. Right? And then I can feed you ads based on your activity. So now the cool thing is that if I'm a foodie, and if I'm searching for food stuff and someone feeds me an ad about a recipe or come try this restaurant, I don't get offended because now I have an interest in it. But if I'm a foodie and you're feeding me an ad that says come buy a pickup truck, and I'm like, but I'm not in the market for a truck, why the heck are you feeding me this ad? Then I get offended. The cool thing is you can be super targeted, right? You can be super targeted based on activity that people are doing. So there's some but this has really changed, the iPhone really changed marketing forever. Then whatever date 2020 came along, and this thing called COVID-19 came. That never in anyone's lifetime that I ever thought we would go through something like this, ever, right? This is something that I remember going back to when it happened, like when you start hearing, you're like, oh, it's in China, it's not good. Like, it's just a flu, you know, earlier, it's been a couple weeks and it's gone, right? We're 2.5 years into this and it's not stopping. Where we were just talking earlier, like the cases are going, what's happening now, right? So why I brought this up though is it changed how people consume data or media forever. It really has. Like, it forced people to go home. It killed pretty much, it was the nail in the coffin for most cable companies, because streaming video went through the roof. and it's continuing to grow. It put nail in the coffin for most radio stations, streaming audio, going through the roof. Newspaper was already dying anyways, but it changed the way people were consuming. And they were on their phones or on their devices all day long consuming information. So it really changed. Like TikTok, and we'll show you the numbers of when TikTok launched to when it got to like 100 million users was like days, like not years. Like it's insane how quickly things adapt now. And it was because of this, because I think it would have happened gradually. We're going in that direction. We're going in that direction. And when I say that, like I said, don't get me wrong, we buy newspaper ads for clients, we buy radio. It has to be the right client. So I'm not saying don't do that stuff, but if I had $5 to spend, I would 100% go digital before I would go traditional media, because the reason for me is I'm a data person. I can tell you where those $50 went, what people did they click on anything, did they convert, did they not? I can't when it's a billboard or a radio or TV. I can tell you what, like radio and TV, they do their surveys to find what people are watching programs. They talk to 100 people or 1,000 people and they say, this is what the rest of the population does. Are they though? Like, we're with digital, I can tell you exactly what happened. I can map that customer journey when they went to your website. You can even track, I'm come jumping, I love this stuff though. I can geofence this phone. I know the phone ID, and then I can see if it went into your pub. So you want to talk about ROI? I can tell you at the end of the month that we geofenced, I captured 500 phones and 37 came into your restaurant. Now you can be, as a business owner, I know what my average sale is, what my profit would be. So if 37 people equated to X amount, I spent X, totally, let's do more of it. Like that's how, sorry, Robin?
No, I was just when I was working here, I did a Facebook campaign, and I was playing with it, right? And just kind of figuring out where, we were kind of playing with some stuff here.
Yeah.
And I just did, and it cost me like $25 or something, and I threw this thing out. I did a bunch of targeting, and we had, and I did demographics, I did geographics, and just special interest. We had 3 people that phoned here the next day and booked to come and stay. And that's not a ton, and I hadn't, and this was just plain. I was just doing a test, right? We had 3 people booked the next day to come to one of the events here, and I was like I said, I spent $20, and it was like, whoa, and this was just me playing. It was, I'm not a marketer. I mean, I do marketing, but I don't work with a marketing company or with somebody who does that. It was pretty amazing, actually. So.
Yeah, and the beauty of that is that you don't
probably 3 years ago.
In smaller markets, like even Kelowna, like when we do booths, $50 to $100. Like we're not talking huge, so now. When we run stuff for TELUS across all of Canada, obviously it's larger budgets, but we're hitting literally all across Canada.
I think I was targeting the Lower Mainland just to see kind of, I had picked a few different things just to, anyway.
So what does digital look like today? So we'll talk a little bit about that and some trends. I'm gonna finish off at the end with some trends as well. So I always hear a lot is like that this is a little bit invasive. All that sort of stuff, but my argument to that, it's happening. Like you either do it or you don't. I guarantee you've been geofenced before, for sure. You've been remarketed to. You went to a website, like I can't remember where I went to yesterday. Oh, that jewelry store I was saying. I went to this jewelry store website because I was showing it as a brand. Literally 2 seconds later, I must have went to, I don't know, TSN to check a score. The ads pop up for the jewelry store because they're remarketing to you. They know you've, even now, I can go to a website and all of a sudden I get an in-mail message from LinkedIn saying, hey Rob, thank you for visiting our website. Like, cause it tracks that sort of information. So again, I don't get offended. I mean, maybe because I'm in the industry, because I'm like, I'm interested in it. I wouldn't have went if I wasn't, right? So I don't get offended. But what does it look like today? So if we go back years ago, people are commuting to work, and it's really hard to see this picture on here, but and this is an actual picture of people traveling to work and they all reading their newspapers, right? This is what they do. So people are like, well, the phones are invasive. No, well, you did it before. You just read the newspaper before. Like, so now, what does it look like? That. So I was in Victoria last week. trying to remember what area I was in, but it doesn't really matter. Just outside of downtown, and I went to this little. Was going for a walk and runs this little Italian place for coffee. So I went in there, went sat outside. I even took pictures of it. And I'm like, I'm totally creeping this, but I got to do this because older demographic. So Victoria, most like where the area was older demographic. There was 2 ladies sitting behind me, for sure 65 plus. Both of them on this, reading whatever they were doing. Both like, so they're like, oh, it's only the kids that do it. No, it's not, right? I was up at the steamers, right up, same thing. I saw like this morning popped in there and on their phones. One gentleman had a newspaper, the rest were on their phones. Older demo up there as well. So it's not just the kids. Like it does drive me nuts. Like the kids are, you know, my son, they don't have sleepovers, they have hangouts because it's cooler to have a hangout. But they're all, they sit on the couch and they're on their phones. Like, I can rant about that side. I think we're losing the ability to communicate as humans, period. Like the younger generation, I'm starting to date myself, but the younger generation, I noticed it. They come in for an interview and they can't frickin' do an interview. Like, cause they're shy, they don't know how to talk to you. I'm like, but if I texted them, man, they would ace it, right? But they're losing that ability to talk. Like they really are, cause this is what they're living off of. They're on social. And then, you know, the stuff you see on social as well, like it's, you know, half of it, you can't even believe half of it, right? So you have to be really careful on that side of it, but it's out there. This is what's happening in today's world. Like, I think that's, like, you think go to a concert now, do you remember the lighters at the concert? Not anymore. Now you turn on the light on your phone, right? So that's where things are going to now, which is interesting. So some of the numbers to kind of talk about this is one, I love that. I like looking at numbers like this. So 87% of people keep their smartphone by them day and night. And I actually argue these numbers are light, because this is a little bit of an older data, but when this came out, 87% of people keep their phone with them night or day. Like I say, it's on their nightstand because it's their alarm clock, right? So 68% check their phone within 50 minutes of waking up.
I think that's low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that's low.
Yeah.
But we're grabbing it. Like, I don't know, I do. Everybody else, do you grab it for one of the first things you do?
I don't grab my phone, I do my iPad.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm on my iPad though.
Yeah, sure. That's fair, yeah. On average, we check our phones 150 times a day. So we're just picking it up. Oh, wonder what time it is. What's the weather? What's, you know, all that sort of stuff. We pick it up and check all the time. I always joke with my kid. I'm like, you're not the president. Like, there's not that important. There's nothing going on. But I'm bad because I do it, right? But I'm trying to, you know, teach them to say it's not that important if you miss that TikTok. It's okay, right? But FOMO, on average, and I think this is low. I don't know. It tracks now, but on average, almost 3 hours a day. But this is doing non-phone activity. So you don't use this as a phone. You use it for everything else. It's your little computer, right? So you almost 3 hours a day of non-phone activity, and I think.
Time.
Sorry?
Screen.
Yeah, and I think now they track screen time, and it drives like, really, I was on that long? Like, holy crap, like so.
I'd be interested to know.
Yeah.
Just my kids are 41, 38, and 32.
Right.
And my youngest, in Kamloops and Trent, that generation seems to be, and some of you are in that generation, but that generation seems to be, you talked about overwhelmed before.
Yeah.
You talked about all the noise, right?
Yeah.
And when I talked with him, he said, I get overwhelmed. The group chats, everything else, the demand to respond. He wants to be courteous, he wants to be. But he said, if I phone or text him at night, it's not just because I'm his mom, but he and his fiancée will leave their phones at home. They don't want, they're actually moving towards the opposite. They're moving to get away off of their screens because they're done with social media. He's not on social media other than for work. And they are just trying to quiet their lives a little bit. Do you find when you're talking with people, are people trying to move in that direction or not? Or is that a bit of an exception?
It's still, right now, I would say is an exception. Like even if you remember all the stuff that went through with Facebook and the US election, and you know they had to go in front of Congress and they're gonna shut down and people aren't gonna use them. 2.4 billion people are still on Facebook. Like, so I think a lot of time they say it, but not everybody's doing it, right? So 100%, there's people that turn 100% of turning off social media for sure. Right now, I think it's more the exception than it is the norm in my mind. That being said, I love you brought this up, because again, back to I said, it's not like we're going to talk about digital marketing today and right now, but there's other ways to reach people. Like I'm a good example. I'm not on social media. I'm usually at work, obviously during the day, but then after work, I'm usually on the soccer field with my kid, I'm basketball court, and like I've young 18, 15-year-old, and I'm coach and stuff. So maybe you need to talk to me a different place. Maybe if you want to market to me, maybe you need to find me where I am, like other places that I'm at, right? So that's where I was thinking originally before finding who your audience is. This isn't the end all be all, I'm not saying it. But right now, if I had $50 to spend, I would look at targeted digital media, because that's what's like Robin said, the return that you get. And at the very least, I can at least come back and tell you if it worked or not, right? So back to your question, I think right now it's probably not the norm, but there's more of that movement coming for sure.
Well, let me look at, you talk about Simon Sinek, right? Mm-hmm. And he has a good talk.
Correct.
Around, it's usually sort of more around the millennials, but it is talking about the lack of creativity and inspiration.
100%.
Much time and the lack of social skills,
Yep.
Right? There's a fear there.
So some data on sort of the main platforms. So Facebook, 2.4 billion monthly active users, 1.6 billion every day, and you spend about an hour a day on it, typically. I'm not a Facebook user, but big. Like I find Facebook right now is probably, if someone's saying, and I hate to say this and I'll tell you why, but if someone's like, if I need to pick one thing to do, if it fits your demo, Facebook's still the cheapest. I look at what's called CPM, cost per thousand. How much does it cost to reach 1,000 people? Those are the metrics that we use in sort of advertising. Those cost per thousand, which CPM, cost per click. How much does it cost for someone to click? And the most important one for me is a CPA or CPL, cost per acquisition or cost per lead. How much would you pay in order to have a client come in as a prospect? How much would you pay to someone to walk through your door? How much would you pay to someone come up to your food truck? That's important to know, because then you reverse engineer. A law firm will pay sometimes thousands of dollars for a personal injury lead, because it literally means thousands of dollars to them. But if I'm a coffee place, if I'm Steamers, I probably don't want to pay more than $1 or $2 for them, because I'm not going to make that money unless it's a repeat client. So I look at that, and with digital, I can track that. Right now, Facebook, with all else being equal, is probably the most cost-effective tool to use or tactic to use. Why I don't like it, and I'll tell you why, and this is just me on my soapbox. Facebook doesn't put $1 into communities. Any money you spend in Facebook, Instagram, Google, they're not sponsoring little Johnny soccer team in Sorrento or sponsoring, right? So easier said than done, because we all do it. But when all else, I look for opportunities to work. How do I work with local, and how do I reach local using local, right? And it's not always easy to do, I get it. But that's why, and again, right or wrong, like I said, just me on my soapbox saying, all that money that goes in, Zuckerberg has more than enough money. He doesn't need any more of our money. But right now, unfortunately, Google and Facebook are the beasts in the market for sure, 100%, because they also own Instagram, which is probably the fastest growing platform. Really good engagement typically with Instagram. The reason is people would rather watch a video or see a picture than read. Plain and simple. Whereas the engagement on video on any of these platforms are visual on any of these platforms, I'll show you some of the data, through the roof, right? So the other thing is, you don't have to overthink your video as well. Like, we're not talking, this isn't Super Bowl commercial. Like back when I said authentic, make this stuff authentic if you're doing it as well. It's okay to grab your phone once in a while and just, I'm going to do a Facebook Live, or I'm going to go on Instagram. Like, not all the time. Like, if you want more of a corporate polished video, you reach out to Mike. But if you know what I mean. But it's okay to be organic with the stuff that you do. Right? So food truck, grab the phone and, hey, we're busy, we're opening up. That's all. Don't overthink it. Like, I think people get scared sometimes to overthink them. So Instagram, one of the fastest growing, you'll see sort of, lots of activity on Instagram. We're seeing actually really good platform to deliver, right? And all these things, the beauty is that you can localize. Like, I can just market to people in Sorrento or in Salmon Arm or in Chase or wherever you want. You can draw that geo-targeted fence and use these platforms, which is super cool. Okay. YouTube. So YouTube is now the second largest search engine, if I said that right. Google's number one, second is YouTube. I'm a YouTube user. My son got a 19-something Dodge Dart, his first car, window wouldn't roll down. I went on YouTube and Googled it, and there's a guy that literally has videos on Dodge Darts and how to fix them, right? And I'm like, what the heck, right? I watched I literally had the laptop on the seat, and he walked me through how to change the fuse and where to look, and I fixed it. Right, YouTube, right? So it's a massive right now, and I think it's, I don't know if it still is, but in January it was the most visited website. YouTube was. They've just launched YouTube TV. It's fairly new, but they're actually launching their own online TV as well. So they're going to get into that game where they're going to start producing their own content. And again, I've shown you 4. 2 owned by Facebook, 2 owned you know what I mean, by Google. Like they're just beasts in this industry, right? So but YouTube is actually a massive growing. A lot of people go on YouTube right now. A lot of people going on YouTube, and the neat thing is you can start doing things like. I know I'm jumping a little bit, but it's like pre-roll. So if I'm in Chase or Sorrento and I'm searching for something, when I go watch a video, you could feed me an ad. So there's some really neat things you can do on YouTube as well. LinkedIn is probably one that's not used a lot. I think it's the one that's most undervalued in digital marketing if you're reaching this type of audience. So if you're reaching more of a professional C-suite audience, LinkedIn's great. It's an awesome, we use it a lot for those type of clients. Of all the social channels, this is the one I use the most. LinkedIn is, because I like using most my social more for like business connections, meeting people. I use it for prospecting. I meet people on there, always connect. So this is the one downside of LinkedIn is it's not cheap to advertise, but it's free to post content. Right, so back to storytelling, which we'll talk about, is that it's free to post content. So if this is your audience, like if it's not your audience, obviously you're not going to pick this. But LinkedIn is actually one of the, I think, most underutilized one. Pinterest, we actually did a study for the Kelowna Airport 4.5 years ago, and we found actually top 3 used social media platforms in Kelowna was Pinterest for their audience. I'm a Pinterest user because I'm a foodie. I actually get recipes off of Pinterest. We just launched a campaign for TELUS. They sell home security and higher end homes. Pinterest does really well for them. You can geo-target with Pinterest as well, which is new, which is really cool. So you can target areas. So it's one that most people don't think about, but some food in, really cool one to think about to do. And again, it's free to create a page and post. It doesn't cost you anything to do that sort of stuff, right? So. And our friend TikTok, I couldn't find a similar graphic. So our friend TikTok, so as this is old, 2020, because I couldn't find anything, there's 800 million active users already in TikTok, which is it. Now, TikTok launched in more of a popular platform like in China it used to be. And then we were sort of late to adopt, and then probably remember like Trump tried to shut it down, and and then someone tried to buy it and all this stuff. It's a massive platform right now. I've struggled trying to figure out a way to advertise for clients, to be honest. Like we like testing it for ourselves before we go too much into market. We haven't found necessarily the magic pill on how to people can create your channels and you can post on it, but then you're talking to like 4 or 5 people. So we haven't found the mechanism to advertise on it yet properly. Like we're playing around with that. We haven't found that magic pill just yet on that one.
Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of people talk about TikTok as being for the kind of younger crowd and that. I have a lot of friends that are, and I'm kind of going to use you. What are you doing on TikTok, right? But they're actually doing sort of more personal interest stuff, or so it's quite interesting to see the transition of where TikTok was 3 or 4 years ago to where it's come now. So I still haven't gone there.
Who uses it in the room? Anyone on TikTok?
Our pub kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. And
you do?
And it's quite interesting though, the shift in sort of the demographic that's using it, and just in some not all the people. I know that but some of these people are fairly well educated and they're doing these different, it's quite interesting that just the shift from, 4 years ago where it was, all it was videos.
Yeah.
People doing dancing and stuff, right, so. Yeah.
Just a question that, so my daughter mentioned this the other day because she's 24 years old, right? So I gave her the Facebook to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that sort of stuff, right? So she wants to do TikTok. She said that this is now probably something we should be doing. So what does that look like though? Is it because TikTok is all videos, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I would think would be probably a really good platform for you. I like TikTok, like I do, but I'm not with my social, like LinkedIn. I'm a little bit different, but I consume. I don't put a lot out.
Right.
Like I'm just different. I'm more to myself. That's just me. Like I don't think anybody wants to know what I'm eating for dinner.
Showing on TikTok that people would see.
The way that you make it would be really accurate. I know, because I use TikTok because I'm a book blogger. And so I moved from Bookstagram, Instagram, and I still have Bookstagram, and then moved into TikTok as well because people were watching my reviews and stuff on TikTok. And so for how to make food and stuff, and then if they're in the local area and it's a younger crowd, they'll be like, trust me, we look up it's a TikTok page. And so just even if you wanted to do some dances with the food or
Just anything.
Yes.
Yeah, basically anything. Because and then you look it up.
Well,
people coming.
Or I guess you'd have to have their permission.
But even the permission. But the hashtag, when if you're going somewhere, looking up shoe swap for sure.
That's what she said. She said when I hashtag shoe swap, everything comes up. So that's what she's saying. It has to. We have to do this.
And then lake life.
Lake life, good idea.
Yeah, but I think you mentioned you guys do everything from scratch. To me that would make as you're making your nacho chips, to me there's some really cool content that you can do, and it's again. It's organic, it's you don't overthink it, and I think the one thing though I would say with TikTok is activity. You can't post once a week and think it's going to work. If you're going to do it, you kind of need to do it, right? So Gary Vee says you need to post 3 times a day. I think it's a little excessive because it's hard for people to do, but you need to post. No matter what that number is that you need to be consistent. But I agree. I think it's a perfect platform for you guys. Anything food wise, I actually think I like. There's some really good realtors in Vancouver that have done a really good job with TikTok as well, as they're taking you through tours of the home and just some really neat things like that. And then there's people that are just having fun. They're just literally just dancing, whatever. But that's okay.
There's literally a 20 to 30 second video typically.
Typically, yeah. You can go up to 3 minutes depending on.
Okay.
But keep them short. Because then that's what people. Then it draws it to your whole page, and then you start scrolling the entire page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just exposure. It's definitely not an advertising tool. That's definitely not what it is. But it's just a great way to more exposure on the book.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's.
I think that whole fresh aspect, Rob was saying, that resonates with people. If I saw something, say you came on there and you went, okay, today's fresh and spicy moment or whatever is this. A lot of people don't know what ceviche is, or a lot of people don't know whatever. This is what it is, and you actually show a bowl of fresh whatever, right? Basic, this is what we do fresh, blah, 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 and have something visual. That will capture my eye. I'm a foodie too. I don't eat food to live. I think you would have that would be a good platform for you.
Yeah, I do find that the ones that are sponsored, the ads, they just don't. You just need to have really good content, right? Because we've tried some sponsored ads. But we launched one for Kelowna now, and it's great. So we have a person that owns it. She comes in and says here's 5 things happening today. Those quite a quick, and it's just content, just continually creating content. And we launched. I can't remember. It hasn't been even a year, and we have 10,000 followers. So it happens because you have a big audience that you're drawing from, right? So. Yeah, so it is, in these sort of things, it's neat because, again, it doesn't cost you other than some time.
Yeah.
which is cool, right? So, but there is a warning. We joke around, but when given the choice between their technology and their sense of smell, about half millennials said they would rather give up their sense of smell. So, like, I'm sure I don't know where they got this data from, but it's kind of, I think my son would. I'm thinking my son would probably do that. He lives on his phone 24/7. So we want to be able to do not only pick the medium. Now we want to make sure we're putting the right content. Again, remember this graphic I showed. Now in order to say we pick the right medium, we still need the right messaging and making sure that we're talking to the right consumer for success. So how do we do that? Content is king, and contacts I put in small because sometimes we forget that, because you can have really good content, but it's on the wrong platform, right? So when I say contacts, no one on that, but content is really king. You don't have to read this, but really what this is, I have a couple quotes, and when I'll share this, you guys can kind of look at this, but really it's saying that, more than ever now, your brand story is so important. Like there's so much, because we talked about that. How do you cut through the clutter? How do I be different? Facebook, it's content. That's what people want. That's why TikTok does really well. It's like it or not, it's good. It's fun content. It's really like sometimes I like sometimes just to shut my brain off for 10 minutes and go on TikTok. I find it whatever. It could be food, and it starts knowing who you are, and it starts feeding. Like I watch a lot of food videos, so I start seeing more food videos. So you start knowing the algorithm a little bit. So and you can easily past 15 minutes to 3 hours, and all of a sudden, so it is, but it's about creating really good content, and that's how you're going to create or get out of the clutter. So really it's about storytelling. I think we talked about earlier, like storytelling is everything we do is about storytelling. We don't care if it's a printed piece, if it's a business card or a brochure, a website or an ad, you're telling your story. If you go in with that mindset, it's going to change the way you do things moving forward. It really is. It's not just an ad anymore. Now I want to tell my story through this ad, right? And it's a shift, right? It's a shift. But isn't that, when I say story, you don't need to write an essay. An image could tell a story. A video can tell a story. Like it doesn't have to be about just writing too much. But I don't know if you guys know Seth Godin. It's hard to see. So Seth Godin is one guy that I look up to when I got into marketing. I love his stuff. Really easy to consume. But he's saying marketing is no longer about stuff that you make. It's about stories you tell, and it's so true. Right, it's about the stories about you, because like I said, there's lots of opportunities to go find whatever, lots of marketing, lots of hotel. It really is, right? The emotion you're creating. And one of the best storytellers was Steve Jobs. Liked him or not, like some people don't like the way he ran his business, but sure. But he did it. He had to, because he was what he created was him pushing, right? Really pushing.
Well, it's the think differently.
For sure, yeah. And that ad they did, I think it was called 1984 as well. As one of the, but way back then, it was one of the most like it ruffled feathers. It like just talked about like, but he's all about stories, and Nike's done that a lot, right? So they align themselves with stories with athletes. So not about the shoes anymore. It's about the story it does, right? When we had the guy from Beats by Dre, which was so cool to talk to him about, they aligned themselves with athletes and what they wanted. If people walking on the field with the Beats by Dre, that's their best marketing and story behind. So those are sort of things. It's less about the product and just about the story behind it, right? And you can do it at a local level though. Like now we're just talking, like you could go right now after this session, create a TikTok channel, start creating content in your marketing. Like it didn't cost you anything about some time, right? You couldn't do that 10 years ago. Yeah. You just couldn't do it, right? Which is super cool to be able to do that. So obviously content. Did anyone subscribe to any of these? LinkedIn, or sorry, any of these? Apple TV, Netflix, right? Disney. So it's all about content, right? Whoever's the person that's going to win this race of all these is whoever's going to create the best content, right? That's what it's going. So Disney has an advantage to start because they have Marvel, they have Star Wars, they had content. They already had a bunch of, Netflix is creating everything from scratch. Like, I know they're getting old, but I'm talking about original content because that's what's going to keep you there. You're going to eventually, you can only watch Seinfeld so many times or whatever. But yeah, I watch it all the time, but it's really about original content. And that's one area that actually Apple is struggling, even though they have Apple TV, but some of their latest ones that haven't done well, and they're not cheap, right? And I was listening to an interview with, I can't remember who it was. It was one of the actors, and a famous actor, and it will come to me. But he was saying like things have changed even in Hollywood, right? Because there used to be trailers. So when you made a movie, you're making money every time it's shown again. Not with these platforms. They don't put trailers in it, right? So whatever your fee is to do the series, that's it. Then they own the rights to it. So it's changing. I think the last Batman that came out, or in Spider-Man maybe, were the first, like the movie industry was really struggling through COVID. People didn't want to go. I'm like, I don't know, I got a big screen at home and I can pause it and go to the washroom and grab it. Like, so, but the latest, like they're saying like the blockbusters will do well in theaters, but everything else you're just going to wait and watch at home and stream it. Mm-hmm. Right, so it's different. So really, this is all about why there's been a shift in this. People, like, I don't have cable. Who has cable here? Does anyone have cable?
Oh, we still do.
You do?
Getting out of it.
No one else? Just one person? You don't have cable? Wow.
No, the resort.
And that's not.
We did.
Sorry?
I have it in my resort.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but at home, most people are streaming now. You don't, right? Like even I like watching, I'm a soccer guy, so I stream it all. I can find whatever game I want to watch across anywhere and watch it, right? Which is really cool to be able to do that. Not sure that cable companies aren't happy, but they've made millions on us already. So I don't feel bad. Sorry?
Coda, picture of the year.
Yeah.
It's first time, first movie from the streaming service to win Best Picture.
So why tell stories? Every 60 seconds, almost 4 million Google searches are done. So think about that. Someone's searching for something like 4 million, like that's crazy. That's crazy to think that number, right? There's 4.4 million blogs are published daily, right? 5.3 trillion ads are shown online each year. And then the average consumer processes over 100,000 digital words daily. So you need to think about your content and how it's going to cut through the clutter. I'm like this one to me, we own a media site and I actually don't care if there's ever a display ad on it. Because that's not going to move the needle. No, how many people have bought something because they saw a display ad on a website? Very little. Very, very little. And you don't share it, but how many of you shared a video or a story, or so, like a lot of us, right? Oh, this is really cool. I think you would like this. Or, hey, check this out. Or here's a link to a really cool resort. We should think about going there. Like, that's what you're sharing. You're sharing content, right? And that's the beauty of being able to create really good blogs. Or to me, for your website, blogs are so important. I tell clients all the time, like, write blogs, because what's back to this one. So unless you're going to pay and show up as ads on Google, the only other way to do it is through organic. And that's what Google looks for, is timely, relevant content. Writing blogs is the best way to do it. It used to be backlinks and all these. Google doesn't give a crap about that anymore. What they want is a site. It's got to be built correctly. I get it, and coded right. But then after that, it's about writing content. Writing, or even doing video content, because videos do rank now. When I search, the videos rank as well. So, but creating content all the time is important. So that's your story. Create who your story, like think about who your story is of all the stuff we've been talking about, all the brand, who we are, who our target, and create the story that would resonate with them. So stories break through. Stories are 22 times more memorable than traditional ads. I actually think that's low. I actually think they're 100 times more memorable than traditional ads. I never remember a display ad I've seen, right? When is the last time you shared a display ad or a newspaper ad? Anyone cut out a newspaper ad and mail it to their friends? You just don't. Like the problem with mediums like newspaper to me, or even some traditional radio or newspaper or media, is that I'll use sports as an example. So Blazers, Rockets, whoever it is, I don't care what it is. So if I'm a Blazer fan and I'm waiting tomorrow's paper, so say they played last night, paper comes out this morning, I already know the score. What are you going to tell me the day after that I already don't know? If I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, I go search it. And when I search Google now, Google doesn't even drive you to the Vancouver Canucks website. They give you the score. Right? So if people that are consuming information, I can get it at my fingertips. Like in the Ukraine, what's happening, go on Twitter. You get literally second by second update of what's happening there. right? You weren't able to do that before. It's good and bad. Like I said, COVID, the pandemic's caused people to go on and spread, lies and fear mongering, all that sort of stuff. So you have to take the good with the bad. But if I'm a consumer or something, if I want a recipe, I can Google it and find hundreds of websites, thousands of websites that will give me recipes. That's where I think the traditional media failing. It's because they're so stuck in no, we're going to keep doing what we used to do. You can't, because the market doesn't want to consume. I want to control, now I control what I want to consume, right? And if I don't want to read it, and that's the thing that frustrates me on social media the most, when people go on and comment about, I posted something and they yell at you for, don't read it. I'm not forcing you to read what I'm posting, just don't. Who gives a crap? I don't care, don't read it, right? But that's a whole different area that I can't control. But stories and imagery and video will cut through the clutter. So it's very important you do that. So things to know. So here's hopefully some takeaways. What time is it? Half hour, good. So we talked about this. When you're posting online, you're doing digital marketing, first of all, know your audience, right? So know who you're talking to. So if it's, you show your audience that you're a real person behind there. I love, it's okay. I actually, with our clients, I don't like managing their social media. It's actually a service we do very, very, very little of. We'll help create the strategy and cut the content calendar, but you need to own it. I can't be at your food truck telling you hey Rob, this happened today. Oh, I'm sorry, in a meeting, I'll get to it. That doesn't work. You need to own it yourself. And it's something, or have someone on your team that owns it. Right? It needs to be done organically. So know who your audience and really be organic with that and connect with it. That's an easy way to kind of grow, because a lot of times say, I don't have anybody on my page, right? Connect, comment. That's how you grow. Go like people's posts. Go comment. Hey, really cool store. Hey, loved your post, Robin. Then you're well, who's this? They start following your page. Just little things like that. And you don't need, 5 hours a day. Set aside 15, 20 minutes a day. So I don't know. So make it part of your morning routine. When you grab your phone in the morning and turn off your alarm, maybe, so just little things like that, or through the day, kind of do organically, those sort of things. The second thing is be authentic. This is a really important thing for me, is that be true to who you are and what your brand to be. Don't worry about what others do. Don't worry what others say. Be truly authentic to who you are, and people will follow you. So, and typically people want to. I want to follow brands that are authentic. I'll connect with people that are authentic. So we have some, law firms that we work with. Really hard to have a Facebook page or an Instagram page for a law firm. It's not authentic. What am I going to post on it? Oh yeah, we just sued so and so. You know what I mean? Yeah. And always we have marketing meetings, and they're always why aren't we on social media? Because I don't know. Would you follow a law firm website or a Facebook page? What the heck am I going to tell you? So other than it's an ego exercise because you want to hear yourself or see yourself, then go ahead and do it. But if it's a true marketing exercise, it's not going to work. It's not going to have a connection. But this is important. This is one of the most important ones for me. It's because as you see, even with me, I believe is what you see is what you get. I'm not the person who shows up with suit and tie. That's just not me. If you want that, there's lots of people that will come do that. I like working hard for clients. This is who I am. I'll tell you the way it is, and that's just the way it is. I'm pretty easygoing. But if you want something different, a different experience, it's okay. There's lots of people that can offer that. So just be truly authentic to who you are, and that will come through, even if it's a little rough at the start to get there, right? So
really interesting when I started working here, when I took the job, working in the shoe shop and marketing the shoe shop, it was the stuff that they were doing is not authentic to this area at all. And it was, and it didn't, I didn't come from here, I moved here to take this work too. And within a couple of months, I was so who is their market? What are they doing and how are they? And their logo was a crest. With all, and anyway, it was an interesting experience, but just, and me coming into the community and what the people in the community were, it wasn't authentic to this region. It just didn't.
Well, and sometimes it's hard to actually sit back and go, we're not that. right?
Well,
Because
it was-
right,
yeah.
because but there's so many amazing things to this area that you can play. Like that's like because even we're doing some work with Debbie at the New Shore, and you know, it's not you're not going to draw people from Vancouver to come shop in the area. Like, but there's some really cool stories here that we can get out there to come for a day trip or come stay at the Quay out at Spencer. Like, just finding those things that are really true, and authentic to who you are is important, right?
When we went into the community and asked the community, we ended up with like 500 pages of comments.
That's cool.
So it was really, actually, it was really neat to be able to do demo. Sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's neat.
You have that legacy as manager of Shoe Swap Tourism, because when you ask people now about Shoe Swap Tourism, about the shoe swap, what do they like about it, or what do you think it is about the brand or anything, it's always about authenticity. It's authentic. We don't try to pretend we don't want to be Kelowna.
No.
We don't want to be Sicamous even. We are different in the South Shoe Swap period.
Yeah.
Even the Shoe Swap's different than, say, the Okanagan.
Yep.
And that's a lot of it's due to credit.
That's cool.
That was, and it's a good brand to have, because I
Well, it
think
was
that's
just
the way we're
really
going.
interesting to see that, you know, somebody was marketing something that wasn't here, you know, so when it comes to that authentic piece, and people were not interested, like, 'cause it wasn't authentic,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Interesting.
And we don't have the big fancy hotels, and we don't have, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but this is who it is.
This is who it is, exactly.
So,
Yeah. Know what content goes where. So not all the platforms are the same. So what you post on TikTok can't be exactly what you post on Facebook sometimes or Instagram. So know that as well. So, and the other thing I say is try not to be everywhere. Like, it's hard. You're busy. I get it. Maybe just pick a channel and just be really good at it. Instead of having Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, maybe all we're gonna do is focus on TikTok for the next 6 months. It's okay. Like, rather than be all three. My pet peeve is going on a website and there's all these icons on the bottom and I click the Twitter account, last posting 2018.
Yeah.
Just take it off.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, just take it off.
We had to do that.
Yeah.
Just simply because we didn't have the capacity.
For
of
sure.
Staff to
For
do it,
sure.
So we had to focus on
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
that we could do really well. And
Exactly.
see.
Yeah, unless you have the dollars to outsource and be able to bring someone in for social, then it's fine. But if not, if you're just going to handle it yourself, which I recommend to start, because if you know it, it's a lot easier even when you give it to somebody else, is just pick one. Just pick one platform. Like, do your exercises, find out who you're trying to talk to, find the medium that works best, and just do that one, right? So this is super important. If all else, I always say, great, if you could hire a photographer, please do, like, because it's so important in the industries that we're in, like, you know, food picture, like, if you're good at it, great, do it. But if not, imagery is so important. And, you know, in good pictures, like, you're gonna get, you know, you generate over 150 more, like in Twitter, 150% more tweets, or 2.5 times more engagement. We see when it's really good photography, you get better engagement. So really, like, and there's some really good photographers even in this region that are not going to break the bank, right, as well, because I know through the pandemic a lot of them have struggled as well, so everyone's looking for work, right? So there's a really good opportunity if you need help with that as well. Like, Robin knows a lot, I know, like, reach out to us if there's like, hey, know anyone local that can come help do some photos, do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we've got
I
to
think,
do-
yeah, I think it's super important to do that. Videography, like, to me, if I could write video 14 times on here, video, like, if right now, our number one talk we have with clients is getting into this space. Like, I'm shifting so much budget, not adding, I'm shifting budget from other things into video, because right now, I don't know how long it's gonna last, but right now video is where it's at. People will consume video. They'll rather watch a 30-second video or a 2-minute video or a 1.5-minute video than read a paragraph. It's just the way that it is. People engage with that. But why I like about video, it gives me an opportunity to do all the stuff we talked about. The authenticity, who our brand is, who I truly am. Hard to do that in a print ad. Hard to do that in a blog post. Hard to do that sometimes with images. Video allows you to do that. Right? So important to get into this space, and don't overthink it. If you have the budget and you can work with someone professionally, great. If not, we shot a video for Summerhill Winery on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Right? We went to Revelstoke Mountain Resort and did a staycation through our Kelowna Now platform, all shot on an iPhone. We went to Edmonton International Airport and did a trip there and went to the mall, and all shot on an iPhone. So don't overthink it. Like, even we just did a podcast for a client, and we set them all up. we told them, go buy this mic, go buy this light. Here, they do it themselves, right? So I'm all for like arming our clients to do that stuff themselves, because I get the budget is not endless. So if there's ways that we can help do that, you know, we don't have gear like that. I get it, right? But you can accomplish it with other ways at that level for now. Like you can grow into something bigger as well, right? So, but videography is super important right now when it comes to that. And be consistent. We talked about sort of, you know, with TikTok, you can't, back to like the idea of going to the gym twice and think I'm going to be in shape. It's just not going to happen. Like it takes, you know, it takes time. Where we help clients is creating the content calendars. That's where clients typically struggle. I just don't know where to start. I don't know what to post. I don't know when to post or anything. So we typically will help create that calendar and then hand it back to the client to execute. Is typically what we do. And usually we have some buckets. There's some things you can do, like there's some easy things you can post. Like there's always fun holidays, National Taco Day, like there's all those fun things. So you integrate some of those things that are already there, and then some authentic original content, and then a few, you know, things that happen throughout the day that are really cool, and all of a sudden you're posting 2 or 3 times a day pretty quickly. Right, just some really neat things. The other thing is you can start engaging if you're in the right space, is doing contesting. You know, give away a GC, just create that engagement whenever possible. And some company will say, well, I'm not the type of company that would be. Well, then partner with someone. Like if you're in a brand, if you're like, I don't know, for real estate, you're not going to give away a house, but maybe you partner with a local business and you give a $50 GC to a local restaurant, or you give like whatever. Like, so there's some neat things that you can do. And most time the businesses are happy to give you the GC because they're getting exposure, right? So there's some unique ways you can kind of create that engagement and be consistent in what you do.
Real quick,
Yeah.
for somebody like us, we do so much. Like we have 6 events a week. Every day has an event, you know, live music, karaoke, jam night, blah, blah. So it gets very messy when I'm trying to post on social media and stuff like that, because I'm literally inundating these people every single day with that. Is that okay? Do you want to do that every day? Like, hey, today is this day, today is that day? Or do you want to have it like a package once a week you inundate them with?
Yeah, you remember that if you're talking about Facebook, like even the way Facebook algorithm works, so is that, I'm going to say you have 500 followers. Your post doesn't automatically go to all 500 of your followers, right? The way that Facebook works, because part of it is way back when, is like there's so much content. What they say now is that if you do a post, if it gets engagement, we're going to show it to more people. If you really want to show it to everybody, you give us some money. That's what the boost is for. So my personal opinion is you post every day. You be consistent and you post, because I might not see it today, but I might see it tomorrow, right? So I think that if it was me on the surface, without going through all the stuff we've talked about the last couple hours, is I would say probably continue to post every day on it. Because if you post once a week, I might not see it, right? Because maybe I'm busy one day too, so it's okay. And the beauty of social as well, like I said, is, I don't know, it's quick. Right? Oh, get it, move on or not, or like it or share it. So it's not like you're really in someone's face for hours as well, right? So hopefully that answered. I would say I would.
We did, because we took a day off. So on our day off, what we did is we posted our weekly schedule for the week.
Yeah, sure.
And then we posted every day.
Perfect.
Just as a reminder where we were that.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I mean, I would probably change the type of content you're posting. Rather than like every Monday the same ad or the same thing. That's probably what I would change and make sure that it's consistent or fresh. But yeah, I would say every day if possible. And the last thing is what a lot of people don't do is track your results. So, so we're looking at, and the beauty of Facebook, Instagram, all these channels give you lots of really good reporting tools behind the scenes. What's the engagement as it increases or not? What posts are resonating? Which ones are not? The ones that are not, don't do it. Don't do any more of those. Do more of the ones that are. Like really quick. Like that's the first thing it's the eye test with clients is I go through the social channels. What's resonating? Typically, you find when there's pictures of people or videos, they resonate really well. Ones that are like you're trying to sell something, no likes. Like so, there's just quick, just have a look. Once a week, go in, or every couple of weeks, go in and see what's actually resonating. What's not. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're going to see that your daily posts aren't resonating. Change it up, right? It's okay. It's easy to change. You're not committing to 12 months of anything. It's not like again buying a billboard and go crap. It's up for a year no matter what. Mm-hmm. Don't change it. Yeah.
May I just ask, like, what is the rules or ethics around, like if you were to put up a TikTok video or a video on Facebook or something like that, and there's a crowd, say, and so you can't get permission. Because I see videos like that all the time. You can't tell me that they're all getting permission from all of these.
Yeah, so typically, I mean, when if you're in a public space, like so as a media, like if it's a public space, I can take a picture and post it. You can't say I can't use it for commercial reasons. Social media, there's a little bit of a gray line. Is it commercial or is it not? I guarantee most like you're with the food truck, if you're doing a video, people are going. Legally, you can probably post it. Like no one's now. If you're taking that and you're running it as a YouTube ad, now you're offside. Then you need permission from the person to actually be out there and actually
put it on my business,
correct.
Facebook or TikTok.
And you wouldn't have an issue with it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, if someone does, they'll tell you. You're not going to get sued or anything. For like, hey, I don't want to be on there, right? Because yeah. I'm there with my girlfriend and my wife doesn't know or something. Is that what you're thinking?
Don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, typically you can, for social and that sort of stuff, like when you're in a public space, you're sort of in a public space. You're okay. Like that's what news, you just can't use it for advertising purposes. That's what you can't do. So.
Yeah. Yes, because we had to get everything approved because we were using it.
Yeah, so that's different. Yeah,
So
yeah. So last, we've got about 12 minutes. I'm going to wrap up with some trends. So these are sort of what's happening in the world. The first one I start with is that this used to be sort of the old model of advertising. It's called multi-channel marketing, where it's like everything is very linear. Like you do stuff on mobile, the markets to the person, your newspaper ad, market to the person. Now it's what's called omni-channel, which means these are all connect. Like we use a technology right now that all our digital marketing works together. So if I'm searching for, if there's a keyword that's doing really well in social media, it automatically gets, in Google, it automatically gets pulled into our Facebook campaign. The ads are all this. So I can say that Rob saw this ad, so feed him this ad. Or he watched 30 seconds of a video, now feed him this ad. Or he felt like now it's all connected. It used to be very linear. Now it's almost like a circle, right? So, and it's organically, a lot of the platforms are organic. Like, so there's platforms like Hootsuite, those sort of things that kind of bring everything together as best as possible. It can get expensive when you start paying for the subscriptions and stuff like that. But there's mechanisms right now that allow you to kind of tie all your marketing so it works really well together, right? So that's a big change. I talked about geofencing. So is anyone familiar did anyone hear of the term geofencing before I mentioned it? Some people know, so yeah, you have, yeah, okay. So what geofencing is it allows you to draw a virtual fence around any location, anywhere in the world. So you basically use Google Maps and you can draw a virtual fence around it. The only thing it doesn't do is floors. I'm thinking we're gonna get there, but so I can draw fences around this room that we're in right now. And what you do is you capture all the devices. So you capture cell phones, computers, iPads, TV streaming if it's streaming TV, and then I can feed an ad into those devices. So that's what geofencing is. There's lots of layers in it, for sure. The reason I bring it up is twofold. One is that it allows us to be super targeted. So if you know your audience, I can go into Canada Post using like Canada Census data and say, show me where in Salmon Arm 55 to 60-year-old live that make $200,000 a year based on census data. So take it with a grain of salt, but it's the best information we have. It'll tell you where they live. I can go geofence those locations and serve ads to them, right? So you can also use it for competitors. So we have a car dealership, we geofence all the competitor lots. Right? So if they're on a lot, now the cool thing is, again, if I'm in a Toyota dealership and I get an ad, I can track if that phone ended up in my Ford dealership. So you can track the conversions pretty easy. We use it a lot for universities. So we will geofence like feeder schools, high schools, colleges, and so forth. And then what we do, for the conversion zone, we geofence the admission office. So I don't want to know if people just went on campus. Did people show up in an admissions office? We do it for events. So right now, events are coming back. One of our clients was going to go to the home show in Vancouver but couldn't make it, so we just geofenced the home show. So now we capture all the audience and we can feed them ads, but they don't have to go to the trade show. Right? So some really neat things that you can do with geofencing. Yeah, so we've geofenced shows in Vegas, Texas for clients. Like you can anywhere in the world, you can say geofence a trade show that's happening in London, and we can do it. So as long as there's a physical location, we can do time. So if there's a hockey game, I only want to geofence the arena from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So that's it, because I just want to capture the audience. I don't want to capture the cleaning staff or the whatever it may be. So you can do that as well. And then it layers in. So geofencing typically layers into other activities. So I want to say that I want people that are fit this demographic, that have searched this keyword, that are in my geofence. So you can keep layering down who you're delivering to as well. It's not an end all be all. Everyone loves it because it's like, oh, it's super cool. As a standalone, it's not going to like super move the needle, but as it works with other things, it works really well. Or you can use it for customer loyalty. So we have a casino we do work with. We geofence our own location, and then we kind of feed them, hey, here's a $5 slot coupon, come back. Right? So you can think about, how do I get people back to the pub? How do I get people back renting? So you can even geofence your location and feed ads to get people back as customer loyalty as well.
So geofencing, is that all in the Google Ads ecosystem, or is it?
Unfortunately, it's not. So on the geofencing, so there's geo-targeting, right? So geo-targeting means I'm gonna look at more of a broader area. So I want to do all of, say, downtown Salmon Arm. So that's a geo-target. A geofence is more when I get really very like targeted, and it's usually it's a software you need to do it in order to do that. So it's not. I think it's going to come. I'd be silly if Google doesn't get there, but as of right now, it hasn't got there yet though. But you can geofence homes. So you can give a list of, you can't give me, in Canada there's some restrictions. So with geofences, you only have the data for 30 days from the last time you geofence, and then it falls off. So it holds some, in US it's Wild Wild West. In US I can go back a year and get data. I can get data, it's crazy. But here there's some restrictions. But if you give me postal codes, so say all of us live on the same street, but so TELUS this example, I'll use TELUS example, they know the services we all have. So Robin is a mobile user but doesn't have security, so her ad is going to be security. I'm a security user but not mobile, my ads are going to be mobile, but we live beside each other. Some really cool stuff you can do with it as well. And again, I don't get offended because, hey, I don't care. Hey, if you bundle your services, so I wouldn't even think I was geofenced. I just think that I'm a TELUS client, they're feeding me an ad, whatever it is, right? So it happens all the time. There's some really, I call it a trend, but we've been doing it for a couple of years, but it's really become popular the last, I would say months, for lack of better words.
So if we have, Robert, we do the Arts Council does the Music in the Bay, 100 to 1,000 people on the field. It's not a civic address, it's just a field.
Yeah, we geofence it.
And we want to capture that audience and feed them with other opportunities for live music.
Yes.
Good opportunity, good strategy.
Yes.
I would think.
100%. So you can even do, it's advanced to the part where a lot of big brands like McDonald's are doing now, where they're geofencing locations by their billboard. So if there's traffic, you can capture, because you just have to drive through the geofence. So the only thing, you don't get 100% capture rate because the phone's got to be on, you got to have location services turned on, you got to have Wi-Fi. So, you might only capture, depending on the audience, say 25 to 60% of the audience that's there, because if I don't have location, most people have location services turned on, because location services are when I go to tell me where the restaurant's close to me, that's location service. Some people don't even know they have it turned on. But so it's not 100% capture rate, but it's pretty good. We just did a show for a client. There's probably a couple thousand people at the show. We captured 400 devices. Still pretty good. We're happy with it.
Is that done on our own, or do we go through?
No, unfortunately, right now you need to third party it. You can't do. We offer. Yeah, there's a few couple of the rate, like Bell Media, Stingray. They all offer their own services as well for geofencing. We offer it as well. Now, none of us own our own. You have to use a tool, but only usually agencies. In order for us to do this, we need to commit a spend of $10,000 a month. We can do it because we lump all our clients together. Right. Most clients don't spend 10 grand in marketing, right? So they can't do it, but we just kind of use our buying power to offer the service to all our clients. And it can be small, and you only pay for when they see the ads. It doesn't cost for the geofence, it costs when you start serving the ads. Right? So it's and it's a cost per thousand, and usually is $10 to $12 per thousand. So if you think about to see your ad 1,000 times is going to cost you about $12.
Huh.
Just roughly.
So if I were to geofence that festival,
Yeah.
how long does that hold on to their cell phone? So for me, for example,
30 days.
30 days. So if I want to run an ad that says, after the festival, come to the Cocktail
Correct.
Pub.
Yes.
I could keep that cell phone for 30 days.
Yes.
If they don't go back, they
Correct.
can still see that ad.
You have it for 30 days. What we recommend clients is that the strategy we use is try to drive it to a landing page where now you capture their information, sign up for your newsletter, now you have it forever. Like that's the idea. We try to turn, like I'm always a big fan of creating your own database because that's the best way to market. You got to get there. But yeah, so you have it for 30 days. And then for that, you would track to see, did Rob's phone go to the festival and did it actually come into your location as well, which is really cool. And that's called the conversion
So our
zone.
new fancy dancy website, being designed by Czek Creative, due to Shoe, has all of our businesses, all of our events, all of our nonprofit organizations on there, telling the stories of everybody and stuff, but definitely a lot of it is attractions, events, bucket lists, that kind of stuff. So if we use that as our website to drive some of those, is that
Yep.
where we would try to get people back to? I don't know. Seems like a good catch-all, and then it seems like this is a perfect tool where people should really work together. Right? It's not just about one business, it's about the area working together to try to get people moving
Yeah.
through our region, right?
Yeah.
And taking in those experiences. Do the local DMOs, the tourism DMOs, do they have geofencing or do they use the analytics provided? I know right now they were doing TELUS insights.
Correct. Bell has one as well.
Right.
Yeah, so a lot of them will work. I know that Tourism Kelowna works with Bell on that. So I don't know. We don't do any geofencing specifically for any of the DMOs. Ours is mostly, we do a lot with like just local smaller clients. Like because I think there's a really cool thing. Like, so if you know your audience, like we had a development in West Kelowna and we had really good results from a clubhouse, 2 Eagles. Because we know that's the audience. They're in the area, they got money, so we served ads to them. So it's some really cool things that you can do that
So we
with.
could be groundbreaking in our region.
You could.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I used the TELUS Insights for a
Right,
while,
right.
but I didn't find it was
Really great.
really
No.
great, and I just found the info didn't dive deep enough.
Deep enough, yeah.
Yeah, to get into some of the.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that information, but this gives you all the data. That's pretty cool. So the other big trend is AI. So what we do right now is a lot of our advertising we do is actually when we're sleeping, it's optimizing the campaign. So we don't need humans involved. So it's looking what's happening with data and it's using artificial intelligence, automatically optimizing the campaign, seeing what's working here, pulling in over here, is telling us what ads aren't performing and why. So it's happening organically behind the scenes, which is really cool from our perspective because it had to be always, a human had to be involved, which there's human error, there's time, you can only take on so much and so forth. So your campaigns are optimizing as they work. The other side, there's AI everywhere. Like just really cool. I've been talking to this company out of Toronto that does holograms. So I could be sitting presenting today, but I could be in Kelowna, my office in Kelowna, but it looks like I'm here and it's happening. This isn't like Star Trek stuff. It's literally happening right now. In the World Junior Hockey, if anyone watched that, the interviews with the coaches through COVID were done using this technology. Yeah. And it looks really freaking cool on TV, right? It looks like they're there, but so that's starting to happen. Like these sort of things are starting to happen as well. I talked about video marketing right now, like, so the term streaming videos a bit, like we use what's called OTT, it's over the top. Basically what it refers to is people streaming their videos rather than using traditional cable. Massive opportunity right now. So again, we have a client that does like laser skin, Botox, so forth. So he knows where his audience is. We geofence his audience, the locations, the homes, and then we feed streaming video into just those homes. So then, across the street, they might not get the ad because that's not our audience. So again, being very, very, very targeted with it is some really cool stuff that we can do with a video. I love this one. Sorry, I know I'm going a little bit quick, but it's 12:31 and I just want to wrap up because I know people want to get back to their lives. So this is probably my favorite one. I'm so fascinated by this is streaming audio. I'm so fascinated by audio. I think there's so much more growth in this right now. there's areas where, podcasting is huge. People are streaming. Now they're not listening to traditional radio. I can go online and listen to any genre of music anywhere without commercials if you want. And right, so you typically people aren't tuning into local radio. I'm a podcast listener, and I'm a satellite. Like, I have satellite radio in my vehicle, and that's what I listen to. And I'm the nerd, so I listen to talk, and that's what I enjoy doing. But what fascinates me about audio is that with the Alexas and Google Home and all that stuff, I can walk into my home and say, play this music, turn on the lights, so it's happening, right? But the next phase for me is now this is being tied into Google search. So I could now go to my computer and say, hey Siri, can you tell me a place where I can grab lunch where I am right now? It's going to know where I am. And it's going to, did it pop up? And it's going to tell me, it's going to tell me, right? It's going to give me now, this is what fascinates me. If I search in Google, it's going to give me pages and pages and pages, right? I can flip through, and if I pay, I go. With search, I wonder, how many is it going to give me? Probably 1, 2, right? So now talk about making sure your brand is powerful, because now it's only going to give me 1 or 2 options to pick from. My concern is when I'm searching for services, if I say, give me a local plumber, I think this, and I don't know if it's going to happen, it's going to give me a plumber where Google's going to own. That's what I think is, because Google's got the money to go buy law firms. I don't know if they can legally. My mind goes to, I'm like, they're going to control everything. They're going to literally, like, because right now Amazon's a beast, like Amazon marketing, so I'm thinking that Amazon's going to, right now they own grocery stores, they own distribution channel, they own all this stuff, Amazon already. So how do we, as a small little brand, make sure that when I'm in Sorrento and I search for something, or I'm in Chase or in wherever I am, and I say, tell me where where can I go grab lunch, or where's a good lawyer, it's going to give us that information. So we're not there yet, but I'm really fascinated by, like, on our website, on our Kelowna Now and all our websites, every article automatically with AI gets turned into you can push the play button, it will read you the article. Automatically. We don't have to do anything. So for people that don't want to read, you can consume it that way. So that's where things are going. I find the whole audio space very fascinating, where it's going. I don't know where it's going, but I think there's a big opportunity there that local brands can really capitalize on potentially.
So my husband's an IT guy.
Oh, okay.
We have Google in the kitchen and Alexis in the living room. And
that's hilarious.
So we do one here, and then
that's hilarious.
He likes to see the comparison.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I don't know if anyone's used this, but a lot of clients are starting to get into chatbots on their website. Really cool technology that's out there. It's not expensive. That actually, it's like you're talking to a human. So it actually, you basically coach it to almost like I'm talking to you, and it right to the point where I can book appointments. It goes into your calendar. It gives me information. It's a good lead. Like, if you're in the right business, this is a really neat tool that some of them are $10, $15 a month to get chatbots on your website. So it's not like a huge investment on it. It's come a long way, but it's a really neat, there's a video with Google that they phoned, and basically they were talking to a bot, booked him a reservation, even to the point where he was testing, oh, sorry, I can't do 5:15 now. What others available? Oh, how about 6 o'clock? And it was all done through automation, which is now with, I think, did I already tell this story? I don't know who I was talking to, but last week, did I say that when I was in Victoria last week and Starbucks was closed at 1:30? So 1:30, Starbucks was closed because they can't find workers. Yes. Downtown Victoria.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? All restaurants there, other than the pubs, 9 o'clock they close because they can't find workers. So I don't know. First of all, I'm wondering, where are the people? Like, what happened to the people that were working before? Where are they going now? Sorry?
Yes, sir.
But isn't that ended though?
No.
No, it's still going? Oh, that's awesome. Love it. Just screw the little business. It's great. I love it.
Yeah.
So part of me says, can this help a little bit? Like, I try to find ways, where can we automate a little bit in order to help with that sort of stuff? Because it blew my mind that I'm like, a Starbucks has to close at 1:30 because they can't find workers. Like, that's crazy.
We had one of the Tim Hortons here. You couldn't get in, you could do drive-through, but you couldn't get into the restaurant. And this is like a week ago.
Crazy.
So.
I've talked about content marketing. I won't spend a lot of time on here, but this is really the ability for you to take your stories and get it. Like, to me, content marketing is big. On our website, I'd rather put really good stories out on the news site than a display ad, right? So we love writing stories about local businesses and video about local, that's what's going to resonate, not a display ad, right? And that's what content marketing is. And then the last one I think I have, the last one I have on here is I talked about is OTT streaming video. I'm in love with this and streaming audio. I think that, and why I love these is that it can be brought down to a local level. Both of these can be brought down to a local level. It doesn't have to be Starbucks and Apple to do this. You can grab your phone, you can do, nothing stops anybody other than time to go home today and start a podcast. Truly, it does not. Like there's, what's the app? Clubhouse. I don't know if you guys heard of Clubhouse, if you've used Clubhouse or not, but Clubhouse is this, I can log on to Clubhouse right now and I can put a talk on about what I did today. People join, it's all done through audio. So it's all like an audio connection. And I listen to a lot, I consume a lot of you can learn about OTT, you can learn about TikTok, and people are just putting talks on, and you join this Clubhouse, you join these rooms and just listen. You can ask questions, you put your hands up, but it's all done through audio. Really cool. Nothing stops you to put one on, other than maybe I'll only have 2 people listening. But it grows. You got to grow your audience somehow. So, and I apologize. I know I went through these at the end last. And the last thing I'm going to show, because I love this campaign. What does it look like when it all comes together? I know this is a big brand, but did anyone remember this campaign? Everyone?
Yes.
One of my favorite campaigns ever. Super fun. The old boring Shreddies, the new Shreddies. I love it, and I'm not sure. Like,
That was so funny.
I remember watching that and going, what?
But just, knowing, it's interesting because what they found, they were actually finding that people felt like Shreddies were for, people weren't buying it because it's like, it's the old. So this campaign drove so many sales for them. Like the person that came up with this should have got given the company, absolutely amazing. But imagine, I think about, because we do this all the time in our agency. Imagine someone walking into our boardroom and go, I got the campaign. We're going to turn, and I'd be like, you're fired, right? But look, this is amazing. I love just having fun and and I'm not sure, there is and they really owned it, back to owning who you are. They ran billboards, they ran ads, they did social. Look at all the people having fun with it, real fun. And I'm not sure, they did a contest, they did vote, do you like the old Shreddies or the new Shreddies? And they even had a video, and I don't know if the audio is going to play. I'm going to try this because the commercial is pretty cool.
Shreddies are supposed to be square.
Have any of these diamond shapes gone out?
New Diamond Shreddy cereal. Same 100% whole grain wheat in a delicious diamond shape.
Super fun. I love it. It's one of my favorite campaigns, and it's one that actually resonated and actually did really well. Sometimes you do the opposite. You remember the Budweiser Was Up commercial? That campaign was one of the most popular campaigns ever, but actually drove 0 additional sales. They saw no additional sales in year over year. This one here, if you look at the data, blew numbers out of the water. And I'm just brilliant. Just brilliant. Knowing your audience, having some fun, even though, there's not a huge production, even that commercial, they didn't spend a lot of money. I'm sure the agency charged some stupid amount of money, but you can execute stuff like that pretty organically. Social media, like I said, it's a campaign that could be you could have some fun. I don't know. That's why back to saying creative, right? I don't know. Can you do something fun with your food truck or your, I don't know, whatever it may be. Just have some fun things that way, because it just gets people talking. Right? So I think that's I wanted to wrap up with that. I know I apologize, I went really fast at the end, but we will happy to share this deck with everybody. There's a lot in there. I know we packed a lot in this morning. But please, my contact info, I believe, is on the last slide as well. So that's the office number. I'm happy to give my cell as well. Please reach out. If there's any questions, I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to grab coffee and just brainstorm ideas. I think there's some really neat stuff that's happening out here right now. I think there's some really cool campaigns that, I think one was mentioned, we're working on some other stuff. So I think there's some really neat stuff that's happening in this region that just make sure you're prepared for it. Make sure your brands are ready to go, because I think it's going to be really cool what's happening over the next, 6 to 12 months here. So it's really neat. And hopefully the pandemic will stay away, that we can get back at it. So, but yeah.
Do you like it here? Would you come back?
I love it. I was actually just, when we were walking out there, I was telling Robin that I told my better half last night, I'm like, I just Googled a house in Sorrento, we're gonna buy it. It's like, look at the view. We can't get, like, I love this area. I love this, I do. Like one of our main account managers, Andrew's from Salmon Arm, his mom's still here. And so we have it's always Salmon Arm has always been an area, and I have my uncles live in the Shishwap and stuff. So I love this area for sure.
Yeah.
I always joked about retiring literally across, there's that retirement place across the highway there. I'm like, I can be mayor of Sorrento. Is there a mayor of Sorrento? I could totally be mayor of Sorrento. No, I love this area. I think I'm more of an, like, I like water outdoorsy. Like that's this for me. I'm very like, I like sort of the grounded. I'm not big city. That's just not my person. That's just not my. So I love this area. Yes.
When you were saying earlier in the beginning, some of the Okanagan to here, what is that you guys see the biggest difference between Shuswap and Okanagan?
We're not as, I think the Shuswap's more relaxed, it's more authentic, it's more, we're not trying to be something that we're not.
Vancouver, I think Kelowna tries to be like Vancouver. It's more like, the word that comes to mind, like I was born and raised in Kamloops, we have an office in Kelowna, so I live in both, but it's more hoity-toity, for lack of a better word. Like Kamloops is, little things for me. At nighttime, I'll go for walks with my kids in the park in Kamloops, everyone says hi. Literally, in Kelowna, you're lucky if someone even looks at you. Like, and I'm being facetious, I get it. Like, it's just different. It's just different. It's more laid back here, more casual, a little bit more blue collar.
Just to give you an example, my daughter, when she lived in Kelowna for a little while, about 10 years ago, so she's 32 now, she's in her early 20s, she went for a run, and she just put her head up, put it under her ball cap or whatever. She walked in, at the end of her run, she walked into a Starbucks, and there were a few girls there sort of ready going to work. It was about 8:45, 8:30, and they just kind of did the, look up and down. Jackie didn't have makeup on. She said, it made me feel very second class. Right? She goes, there is so much emphasis here on look and appearance, and she goes, I'm just out for a run. I just want to get my Starbucks and get home, right? And when you come here, it's just, we're not trying to impress anybody. Right? It's just a different, and I'm not saying, I love going to
For sure.
but it's a different feeling. It's a little bit kicked back here. And sometimes a little too much, I will say.
Kelowna is a good business environment, though.
It's a great business.
Like, compare, from Kamloops to us, like, our business, quadrupled in Kelowna compared to Kamloops, right? So it's a little bit more forward-thinking. Like, a lot of the digital stuff we're talking, Kamloops, it's like, what's TikTok? I know I'm being facetious, but they're still buying some, we're in Kelowna a little bit more. So it is a good business environment for sure, like really strong chamber, really strong business networking for sure. But like any place, it's who you know too, right? You got to get into the right places, but a little bit more forward thinking for sure in a sense on the market. I'm talking about from the marketing side as well.
And I would agree with that here. And it was, when we launched, when I came in and launched, the new brand for Shuswap Tourism, and there was a lot of pushback that they didn't really want to move forward, and you'll get that here. People, like it, they want to stay. Change is really hard, and but that's part of, managed change can be good for a community too, where you're creating a business environment, right? So, and we don't have the population here they do in Kelowna either. So for you, if you have the opportunity to take your truck down there and do a few events, it's probably not a bad thing. If you could connect simply because you have the population, right? We want you to stay here, but
Kamloops is a good place for it, though. Like, I would say Kamloops almost more, because Kamloops is a little underserviced in the food truck scene. Like, and there's some really cool, like Rip Fest, we talked about some really neat events that are happening there that would actually fit really well, and you're only
in the park,
40-minute drive, whatever. So.
Culinary scene too.
Sorry?
You know what I love about Kamloops is like the Red Dog.
Oh yeah.
Collar?
Red collar, yeah.
they recently have taken out their kitchen.
Yeah.
Because they basically said the food scene is getting so good in Kamloops
Yes.
that they're not going to try to compete with that. In fact, you can come there, sit down at their brewery, and order skip the dishes from anywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool concept.
And
Yeah.
I think that is.
It's a cool concept.
Yeah, I would say over the last 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
Yeah, it's really neat.
Kamloops has
We want to go for
really
nice dinner.
changed, and
Yeah, neat.
some of the new restaurants downtown are really they've got some nice. Yeah, and
Cool.
yeah, they do some great events down.
Yeah, there's some neat ones coming back again. Canada Day is really busy. Like those things
Yeah.
are really neat events. So.
Yeah.
But thank you. That's all I had. I know I talked at you for a long time, so hopefully there was some value. I will share the deck through Robin, so she'll send it to everybody. So happy to take, and if there's any questions, please do. Like, don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to connect. So.
Yeah, and I'd like to say thank you to Rob for.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Good.